Hello, my name is Megan Bell, and I'm the president of the Waterloo Region Association of Realtors. On Monday, October 24th, voters from across Waterloo Region will have the opportunity to vote in the upcoming municipal election. This forum is your chance to get to know some of the candidates and learn where they stand on issues that matter to you. As a resident of Waterloo Region and a realtor, I know that housing is one of the most critical concerns facing our community. And our members, like many of you, want to hear how our municipal leaders plan to help solve this crisis. Far too many people in our community are finding it nearly impossible to find a place that they can afford, in the neighborhoods they care for, grew up in, or want to raise their families in. Some are even being forced to consider other cities or provinces. Municipal leaders play a key role when it comes to housing and developments within the community. They have the ability to ensure that more homes and different housing types can be built easier and come to market faster. And they can be key in making sure people don't face further restrictive measures to home ownership, such as a municipal land transfer tax as they have in Toronto. On behalf of the nearly 2,500 members of the Waterloo Region Association of Realtors, I want to thank all of the candidates for taking part in this forum and our local Chamber of Commerce for hosting. We look forward to hearing from all of you and wish you all the best in the election.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for viewing the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo and Cambridge Chambers of Commerce Candidate Forum for the Region of Waterloo Council, City of Kitchener. I'm James Sebastian Scott from City News 570, and I'll be moderating the discussion today. The Chamber would like to thank the newly formed Waterloo Region Association of Realtors for their support of this event, and we trust the upcoming exchange of policy positions will assist you in making informed choices around your vote on October 24th. The format will include questions on issues of concern, for businesses and employers across the region. However, we expect all viewers will consider the content engaging and informative. Candidates will provide 1-minute opening and closing remarks. All candidates were invited in the alphabetical order for opening remarks, and subsequent questions will begin with Rob Deutschman, and then it will end with Matt Rodriguez. Closing remarks will proceed in reverse order, and then we will begin 1-minute opening statements right now. So Rob, you can begin your 1-minute opening statement.
Hey, thanks, James. Hello, I'm Rob Deutschman, and I'm running for Regional Council. I've lived, worked, and played in Waterloo Region my entire life. I've been practicing law in Kitchener since 1995, helping people who are injured and disabled. I was a former mayor and regional councillor from 2010 to 2014. Waterloo Region has given me much, and I want to give back. We're in turbulent times, and this is a change election. I have a record of accomplishment in business and as an elected official. I offer experienced leadership and a fresh perspective. You can learn more about me and my policy platform at robforcouncil.ca. And on October 24th, do your part. Get up and get out and vote. Rob Deutschman for Regional Council. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Joe Gowing, we'll go with you next for your opening remark.
Thanks, James. Thanks, everybody. I'm for Regional Council. I have been in the region my entire life. Everybody worked. I currently live in Forest Heights with my wife and 3 children. I did was for 4 years as trustee. I was also a candidate in the 2020 election. Experience. My background is in banking, specifically in the mortgage industry. And I feel that I would be a great asset to council in the fact of figuring out different types of affordable housing, different ways that we can get people into their homes. So on October 24th, please elect Joe Gowing for Regional Council.
Thanks, Joe. Matt Graham, we'll go with your opening remarks right now.
Hi, I'm Matt Graham. Listen, I love the region of Waterloo. I honestly believe this is the best place to live, work, and raise a family in the entire country. And I lived in quite a few places before I settled here about 15 years ago with my wife. But that doesn't mean that we're not without our problems. Right now, over 1,000 people are living unsheltered in our region. And the average cost of a house has reached $850,000, while a one-bedroom apartment currently rents for on average about $1,700 a month. How can we ever expect our children to be able to afford a home someday? Now, I'm a firm believer that you don't present a problem unless you're willing to be part of the solution. So here I am. I'm putting my hat in the ring to be your representative on regional council. The problems that we face as a region are complex. And while I have some ideas, I don't profess to have all the answers. What I can say is that if I'm elected, I promise to look at all sides of the issues before making a decision, and I'll make sure that all the residents of Kitchener are represented around the horseshoe on Frederick Street. On October 24th, vote Mac Graham.
Thank you. Michael Harris, we'll start with you on yours.
Sure. Good afternoon. I'm Michael Harris, running for re-election as your Kitchener Regional Councillor. I've been a passionate and tireless advocate for the people and local businesses here in Kitchener and the Waterloo region, both during my time at Queen's Park and my first term here on Regional Council. Over the last 4 years at the region, I've served as Vice Chair of Finance, where we managed to keep property taxes low for ratepayers and local businesses. Vice Chair of Economic Development, where we successfully rolled out the Safe Ambassador program and financial support for the COVID-19 retrofit program. I've advocated for fair and open tendering on regional infrastructure projects here in our community, in which we finally saw the successful passage of this legislation that allows our region now to openly procure projects, saving taxpayers millions of dollars. I also chaired the portion of our regional service review that led to additional savings and efficiencies here in our community. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the Chamber for the work they do here in our community, and I look forward to the discussion today.
Thank you. Tom Hiller, you're next.
Thank you. I'm Tom Hiller, and I'm appealing for a focus on functional balance and collaborative counselors who will commit to that. This is not a sideline for me, a professional stepping stone, or an effort to promote a cause disproportionately. I'm here to help ensure the arc of progress and good government continues in this fast-changing community with broad, legitimate passions. I'm presenting myself to provide a service I'm quite capable of, and we need to avoid a council of battling interests and be productive. Everyone here is earnest, but will council act cohesively on housing, economic infrastructure, and social concerns? I'm local, multi-generationally. I have a comprehensive background with financial services, manufacturing, and tech, providing an informed perspective. I'm pragmatic and politically centrist. Consider Tom Hiller for Regional Council.
Thanks, Tom. Colleen James, I'll go with you right now.
Hi, everyone. First, I want to thank the Chamber for hosting us and for the Waterloo Region Association of Realtors for sponsoring this today. It is incredibly important for residents to know and understand who they're voting for. Each of us brings a particular lens to this role, and I'm happy to share my thoughts with you today. I love this community. I'm a lifelong Kitchener resident, award-winning equity and inclusion consultant, community builder, mother, wife, and local business owner. With more than 15 years of experience in municipal government, I know how things work as well as how to get things done. My platform centers on my values as a leader. These values determine my approach to making decisions on behalf of the community. My values are ongoing and work on a continuum. They include building trusted relationships, having equity and informed community discussions, listening and collaborating, empowering and amplifying, taking meaningful action, and being accountable. By remaining true to my values, I believe we can tackle these complex issues facing the region together and build a region of Waterloo that works for everyone. Thank you, and please vote Colleen James on October 24th.
Thank you, Colleen. Duncan, we'll have your opening remarks.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank the Chamber as well and the Waterloo Regional Association of Realtors for hosting us today. My name is Duncan McLean. I've got 25-year history in the business community as a commercial realtor, working with all manner of businesses, landlords, tenants, and buyers and sellers. I work directly with the municipalities for planning and zoning issues. So I understand very well the role of government. My family has a deep political background in Waterloo. My dad served as a member of Parliament for Waterloo, my brother on City Council. I understand that people are struggling, and I put my name forward as a response to our affordable housing crisis. We need leadership, and I have a history in the nonprofit sector. I currently serve as a vice chair on Kitchener Housing. I've served on the board of directors for Habitat for Humanity, and I have also served on the board for the Child Witness Center. So I believe I have the skills necessary to serve our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Duncan. Michael Parkinson.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Parkinson, and on behalf of the campaign team here, my hats off to James for hosting, the Chamber and the Realtors Association for providing a forum for such a critical election, and of course, everyone taking the time out of their day to watch, and all the candidates here for campaigning. It's really no small thing, and it's my first time through a campaign, and I think someone here called it a marathon, and it absolutely is. I grew up in the area. I attended my first council meeting pouring over budgets about 30 years ago. And so I've been involved and dedicated to public service ever since, as a citizen, as a volunteer, as a nonprofit leader, and then most recently with one foot inside the regional government. So I've sort of seen how the machine works, and it is different than private sector. It is different than other sectors, this thing we call government. As a general lens, I bring very much a prevention focus to addressing all of the issues. A prevention focus yields more benefits, and for taxpayers, superior returns on investments. So I'm hoping people watching will consider me as a candidate. I have a website at parkinsonmichael.ca. And I think there's probably high value in bringing some of that deep operational knowledge in terms of working with governments, subject matter expertise on issues like homelessness, urban planning, the drug poisoning crisis, etc. So I hope to be someone who has a seat at that council table and can forward progressive solutions on behalf of all taxpayers across the region.
Thank you, Michael. Ifat Sultana Riyasat will have your opening remarks.
Hello, my name is Ifat Sultana Riyasat, and I would like to begin by acknowledging that the region of Waterloo is situated on the land traditionally cared for by the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and neutral peoples. I acknowledge the enduring presence and deep traditional knowledge and philosophies of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today. I am a proud Kitchener resident, and I have lived in the community since 2014. I live in the Dune South area with my husband and 3 children. We have chosen Waterloo Region to raise our family, and we enjoy the many benefits of living in a diverse community with many amenities, including trails, parks, local museums, and other educational centers. I have a bachelor's degree in business from Kwantlen Polytechnic University in British Columbia, and I am a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. I have worked with people from many different categories of immigration, but I particularly found working with refugees fleeing persecution most rewarding. I understand the challenges vulnerable people face, and I want to help our most vulnerable population get back on their feet. I will approach issues with empathy and help the region make sensible decisions. I will work to ensure regional policies are aligned with scientific facts, studies, and data. Thank you for taking the time to watch this broadcast. And for more information about me, please see my page.
Thank you. Matt Rodriguez with your opening remarks.
Hello, Waterloo Region. Thank you for tuning in to help make a more informed decision on October 24th. I'm Matt Rodriguez, and I'm an urban planner, skilled facilitator, and community leader here in Kitchener. For the past several years, I've dedicated my time to serving the community that I love, serving on several committees and community groups, helping found the Downtown Kitchener Neighborhood Association, and working to realize important placemaking and road safety improvements across the city to make our streets safer and more vibrant. My family has long-standing roots here in Waterloo Region and its business community, dating back to my great-grandfather's paint shop in Preston. After finishing my undergrad at the University of Waterloo, I had a choice on where to move, and that choice was Kitchener. For its small town connection, big city amenities, and vibrant neighborhoods. As a region, we've come a long way over the past decade, and I've been proud to have been a small part of that. But we can be so much more and achieve so much more. And that is why I look forward to continuing to serve our community as a fresh face on Regional Council and to build a community that leaves no one behind.
Thank you. And we'll end with Carrie Williams and her opening remarks.
Hi, thank you for this opportunity and thank you for hosting us. My name is Carrie Williams and I am a lifelong Kitchener resident. I live here with my family. I received my master's degree in political science from Wilfrid Laurier University in 2011, where I focused on poverty reduction strategies at the local level. That research pushed me to become more involved in my community and ultimately to run for a seat on Regional Council. After seeing that many of the identified issues from 4 years ago have become increasingly problematic, I have worked to gain a better understanding of regional policies, as well as gaining more community and professional experience in anticipation of running a second time. Some of the policy decisions at the regional level have been positive. However, numerous others have left many residents behind and have not kept up with the current demands on core services. Given the chance, I will listen to the many voices of our residents to create balanced and equitable policy options while being mindful of budget constraints and the strain on residents from rising taxes. I will work to build community and prioritize people, not just projects. On October 24th, vote Carrie Williams. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now begin the question portion of the forum here, and Joe, will begin with you for the first question. Based on your recent discussions with voters, what is the priority issue in this election?
Thanks, James. I would definitely say the homeless crisis is on top of mind for a lot of citizens, knocking on doors, talking to people on the streets. Definitely that's a major concern. One of the things that I would like to see, and when I address this with people at the doors, is it's not a one solution. People are, after I went, spoke with a lot of them that are living in the finding out they're there for some people are because they want, some people are because they didn't have a choice. Whether there's also health addiction problems there. So unfortunately, it's not a one solution fix to get this done. However, what I want to see is more investment in the mental health side, advocating to the provincial government and addiction services as well, to get more funding for that. Short-term solutions are great, but we need to have a long-term solution to get people the help that they need and get them off the streets.
Thanks, Joe. Mac, we'll go to you for your answer on the priority that you've been hearing from voters.
Thanks, James. I would have to agree with what Joe had to say. I believe that the homeless crisis that we're facing here in the region is the #1 issue right now. As someone who lives about a block and a half from the encampment, it's probably the main reason that I decided to run. I can witness on a daily basis what's happening down at the corner of Victoria and Weber Street in the one encampment, and it breaks my heart to see this. I want to make sure, the reason I'm running is I want to make sure that every single one of these people has a place where they feel safe and welcome here in Waterloo Region. And I don't think that there's any simple way to do that. I think really it's going to be a multi-pronged approach. We have our own supportive housing unit within the region, but I also think we need to work very closely, as we are, with Joe Mancini and the Working Center Group, with the House of Friendship, with the Indigenous Affairs people who have set up some special Indigenous homes. We need to set up special homes for women in particular, and with also the House of Friendship. These are groups that are already, in my opinion, doing a great job in trying to address the crisis that we're facing. They recognize that it's not purely housing, that it's housing combined with addiction support, combined with mental health supports. They know that. And I think we need to work with them and fund them. If they have good ideas, I suggest we fund them rather than bloat out government more. Let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's see who's doing what and what's working well. So examples like what we're seeing on Weber Street in Waterloo at the old Comfort Inn, that's what the House of Friendship, or on University Ave in Waterloo, where the Mancini Group has been working and created a shelter for people. I think we need to do more of that until we have everyone successfully housed that is looking for a place to live. And then after that, I also think it's extremely important that we simply enforce the existing bylaws that exist already and make sure that this idea that anybody can pitch a tent wherever they want and choose to live, That has to go away. That's not something that we can keep in this region. It's not safe for the people who live in the tents. It's not safe for the social workers that have to go and service these people. And it's not safe for the neighborhoods where these tent cities are popping up. So we need to find housing for everybody. Everybody deserves a place to live somewhere safe. And then we need to make sure that these tent cities are not part of a permanent solution. Thanks.
Thanks, Mac. Michael Harris, with your answer on the priorities that you've been hearing.
Yeah, thanks for the question. There's no doubt when I speak to residents here in our community, affordability is front and center on people's minds, and affordability does encompass, predominantly housing. It wasn't too long ago where we saw for the first time, I think in Canada, a townhouse here in our community selling for over $1 million. Trickle down, we've got folks, seniors on fixed incomes, looking to attain an affordable housing unit that just simply can't find one. And we know, as we've heard from the previous two candidates, our crisis that we face here in our community with our homelessness population. I believe our region has done a tremendous job balancing the affordability piece when it comes to, fair and reasonable tax increases while delivering, world-class services. We have advocated to the other levels of government, both provincial and federal, to be at the table to assist us in dealing and combating with this very issue. In fact, regional taxpayers have more than supported their fair share of investing in regional affordable housing projects. I can tell you that the amount of projects in the ground currently, are well on track to be able to support our community, but we have much more to do. Value for services are key. On the homelessness issue, I know we've got both private sector and other public sector entities that will need to be at the table to continue to help us deal with the situation. It is by far the number one issue that we're faced with right now at the regional council table. There are not a one-size-all solution that will combat this issue. I have had the opportunity to meet with almost every resident down at the encampment, and we'll need all levels and layers of government, including our social services, to help support these individuals. And I can tell you that the staff and the folks at the region are doing their darndest to come up with those solutions, and I look forward to being part of those over the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Tom, what's the priority you've been hearing from voters?
Well, the first responsibility of any government is the security and shelter of their citizens. That comes before any economic considerations at all. Our situation here is the crisis that we're facing. It is absolutely demanding immediate attention, and I applaud the community groups that have been on the front line and in the back rooms providing help. Council's recent approval for new subsidies, beds, and managed encampments helps. However, much more funding's required before we can make a significant impact. With common two-tier purpose, we need to replicate the successful approach that we've started with a better tent city in other locations and on an urgent basis. I'd like to see those shelters built locally or even internally, and redouble our efforts to find locations in which they can be quickly approved after reviewing for security and fire hazard and liability. I believe property owners can be incentivized for those locations, and builders of shelters can be supported in a variety of ways. If we were to produce these en masse, we're not going to run out. And if we overproduce, they could be sold off. But the bottom line is that despite our great efforts, social services, homelessness has been intractable, and we must pull out all the stops possible to make even the most basic shelter available. With managed encampments, at least we'll have staff that will be able to intercede and address initial problems so that we can get down to the basic root causes that are causing homelessness, and we can address them. From a funding standpoint, obviously we have to focus on additional funding from the province and the feds. However, we have to also boost our community services and social services so that we can help with the root causes of homelessness and move forward. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Tom. Colleen, what's the priorities you've been hearing from your, the electors?
Yeah, housing is the number one thing that comes up at the doors when I'm speaking with residents. And when I look at housing and the conversations that I'm having, there is housing affordability, there is people experiencing housing, our encampment, as others have mentioned, and the availability of homes. And we're in a crisis situation. This is an everybody responsibility, all levels of government. We are, probably 10 to 15 years behind in the housing that we have to meet up with the housing demand. And I think this situation that we are in is going to require multiple levels of government, multiple organizations that are working with vulnerable communities right now. We also have a need with student housing that's come up as well. And looking at safety, looking at the wraparound services that are needed. I as well have been to speak with Joe Mancini, have been to a Better Tent City, have spoken with the House of Friendship, and we need to look at how we're reducing harm. How are we creating stability for those persons experiencing homelessness, as well as, temporary permanent solutions while we build these homes? This is not going to happen overnight. And as somebody who has a family that, I think about access to homes for my child, what is that going to look like? And we need to providing more advocacy and working more with the organizations that amplifying and empowering those that are doing the work. The region can't solve this on its own. We are at a point where COVID has exacerbated all of the crises we're in now, and it is a measure of systems that have broken down for a number of years. So in terms of dealing with homelessness and our housing crisis that we are in, we are going to need to put more pressure on upper levels of government, but also look at how are we providing services and access to services to address some of these root causes that have been creating and exacerbated over the past few years. Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen. Duncan, what are the priorities that you've been hearing?
Well, there's three, but affordable housing, the housing crisis, obviously, as everyone has spoken to, is absolutely top of mind for all residents and to the people that I talk to. As a region, we need to do better, and regional council as the upper tier government has to lead, and we need things to happen quickly. I know we're doing an official plan review right now, and the policies in place. We have to work with the provincial government. We have to work with the municipalities in order to make things happen. And so I will urge the provincial government, the federal government to come to the table. We are a leader in not only our province, but in the country and in the world, and we need to do better. We're going to have 835,000 people in less than 20 years. The problem, as Colleen pointed out, did not happen overnight. We need quick solutions. They may not be perfect solutions, but we need to act quickly. And the next thing I'd like to talk about would be seniors. I just know that, again, in 8 years, 1 in 5 people in our region will be 65 years of age or older. And seniors are struggling. We're going to have a humongous influx of seniors, and the region's responsible for providing services to seniors. We're far short on healthcare providers for seniors in their homes, and it's a real issue. And if I'm elected to regional council, the senior file will be one that I focus a lot of my attention on, make sure that we have the funds and services in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Parkinson, what has been the issues that you've been hearing?
Well, like everyone else, like by far, the number one issue at the door is housing affordability, housing attainment, and the issues of homelessness and encampments. And then as a secondary issue, and it's really a minor, it's the school trustee elections. So I would encourage viewers out there to pay attention to those elections in new ways that you may not have in previous years. For on issues of homelessness and encampments, I mean, the bad news is, I mean, we've watched a predicted and largely preventable crisis unfold before our eyes. And on the upside, I mean, if I'm elected to those council chambers, someone who started working at a women's shelter in 1995, I've worked in men's shelters and been intersecting with people who live in those tents or tried and survive in shelters ever since. So it's an issue I know a fair amount about, and I don't think the solutions are actually overly complicated. What is frustrating is the unwillingness of the upper levels of government, both the federal and the provincial government, to fund solutions that we know will work. And I'll point out that Ontario's big city mayors requested an emergency meeting from the province in June, and to my knowledge, have yet to get a response. So, and so here we are at the local level, and we're not powerless, but I reject funding solutions from the property tax base. That's a regressive tax base, and it's not appropriate. But we do have pragmatic solutions here, and what frustrates me and staff in those agencies is the unwillingness to really consider integrated solutions. So, for example, we know that people in those encampments and shelters, I mean, most of them have an acquired brain injury, right? So it very much affects behavior. Many people are struggling with mental health services, and we can talk about wraparound support services, but if you don't have a home, everything else falls to pieces. There is no wraparound. And then finally, you know, most of the people in the shelter system, like north of 80%, are regularly consuming unregulated drugs. And all that together, if we're not addressing all those things together and good solutions exist, then we're going to miss the mark. And we're going to be relying on jails, emergency rooms, paramedics, a great disruption to not just the people in those shelters and encampments, but to the neighbors surrounding and the businesses that surround some of those areas. So what I would say to people is, even if it's not a humanitarian issue for you, there's a financial imperative to do better, and streaming people through emergency rooms or through the criminal justice system is not the right solution. So we can think, you know, we're a community that grew up on mutual aid. We're the home of Mennonite Central Committee. So think, you know, like disaster relief type tents in the thousands of acres of vacant land or in the empty buildings and parking lots that exist across here. We have the people to do much better. That's an immediate step. And then locally, I mean, so much ingenuity, innovation, and a desire for entrepreneurship. So think novel approaches to housing, everything from tiny homes to co-ops, land trusts, and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, key issue number one by far. And I hope to bring really pragmatic solutions to wipe that off the table in the next 4 years.
Thank you, Michael. Ifat, what is the priorities that you've been hearing from your from the electors?
So without question, the main issue of this election is homelessness and the housing crisis. And that's really the most important thing that I've heard about from the people that I've spoken to. And I think that as a council, we need to find solutions to get everyone a place, you know, just to get a roof over their head. We can't allow these people to sleep outside during this winter. And I feel like, you know, I don't know how I would sleep at night if it was -20 with a wind chill of -30 and there's somebody sleeping outside in a tent. We need to find more emergency shelters in the short term to take care of these people, and in the long term find them solutions, find them a place to live, and a place to get better, because a lot of the people in those encampments do have mental health issues, and they need more kinds of support other than just having a house and with a closed door. We know that the people out there, they need more than just a roof. They need social services. They need outreach workers. They need healthcare workers, and we can't leave them out in the cold. Not at all. So the reason why I actually decided to put my name forward was a visit to Victoria Park with my kids, and my son said, how are we going to help them, Mom? They're going to sleep outside. And I said, I don't know. Let's see. So they are the people out sleeping outside are the inspiration for me to run, and I'm pledging to take care of them if I'm elected. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt, what are the priority issues you've been hearing?
Yeah, thanks so much, James. So, certainly housing is a broad level and affordability. And I want to tie this back to the broader affordability crisis that we're hearing about at the door. I've folks asking me about, inflation and cost of living. And, while it really is an all level of government approach that is needed to tackle some of these larger economic challenges, we can do a lot to tackle the affordability issue and affordability crisis that we have here in Waterloo Region. Starting with transportation issues, we can review our fare structure to support families who ride transit, make it more viable, make better times, better service hours, better connections, to make it an option for more people who need and rely on our transit service to get to their essential jobs, to get to work, to get to school. And quite frankly, if a family has to pay 4 fares to go to the grocery store because they can't afford to go to the grocery store down the street, that's just adding to their cost of living. We really need to quickly and expediently make it more affordable for them to get around the community. Coming back to the housing crisis, as previously mentioned, I'm an urban planner. I'm also a renter. And so I understand the pressures that that this current affordability crisis has placed on our renters in the community. And it's no small population here in Waterloo Region. And so we need to support those folks as well. I fully and wholeheartedly support our local initiatives around the countryside line. But from an affordability perspective, this also means looking at our built up area to understand how we can build more housing units and really remove red tape to build more infill housing within our neighborhoods, build more walkable, vibrant, and livable neighborhoods, and introduce units of a wide range of different sizes. Someone earlier mentioned, Duncan mentioned seniors earlier, and there's a lot of seniors who want to downsize and stay in their neighborhoods, and they're looking for appropriate sized units. There's families who want to live in certain neighborhoods, but may not want to live in a tower, and we can do that in our neighborhoods. We don't have to grow outwards exclusively. We can look for innovative housing solutions here in Ontario, here in Canada, and abroad to better house our residents in a mix of rental, or market rental, affordable units that are owned by agencies or the government to provide that level of affordability at a guaranteed level. And I think we're seeing it right now. Every time a new development comes online, there's a fight about affordability and a question of, are there affordable units? Let's build those affordable units as a region. Let's use our regionally owned lands, our vacant parking lots, and really support the co-op housing sector as they try and reestablish themselves here in Ontario. So I think there's a lot we can do on the housing affordability side. And I'll just conclude by saying rather that in the interim, as we head into the colder months, I will wholeheartedly support all of our temporary solutions that we're proposing to help our unhoused neighbors. Thanks.
Thank you. Carrie, what are the priorities that you've been hearing from the electors here?
Similar to everybody else, I think affordability is definitely on everyone's minds, especially if you are a senior on a fixed income or on ODSP, Ontario Works. As well, if you have a family, I know it's getting much harder to feed growing children. It's costing a lot more money. So housing is obviously a really big part of that. But I think also, as Matt mentioned, rentals are a really big concern. I've talked to a lot of people that feel like they're being pushed out of their own community, like they're not welcome here anymore. And they don't feel like they have the means to move to any other places because they feel like they're stuck. Because if they do have a good rental rate, they can't go somewhere else that might be closer to a new job or something of that nature, because it's just not affordable to find a newer build. So I think that that's one of the things that we should look at, definitely, working with different groups, anticipating future needs as well. Infill is always a great idea, working with the city for different zoning variances so that we can do more medium density housing in some of the older neighborhoods. I think that would also give options for seniors or couples who no longer have children at home to find a different option that's more suited to their current situation. And that also ties into seniors trying to stay at home. I've heard a lot of them saying they wish that since they are on a fixed income, there were more programs that could help them with modifying their homes for accessibility and for also maybe even adding units, so doing a basement apartment, but they may not have the means to do that, but they would love to see more like tiny homes or laneway homes, some way that they can modify and also contribute to the housing, but stay in their homes as well. So I think that with the homelessness issue, a lot of people are just kind of what I've been hearing, they're feeling like these emergency measures are not wasting money, but they would rather see money spent where it would be a permanent long-term solution. And I know that's not going to happen overnight. But we should be anticipating future needs as well. So from 4 years ago to now, when I first ran, there has been a lot more visibility of homeless people, and there's also a lot more encampments. There were only a few known encampments when I ran the last time. So I think that we should be anticipating that with all of these affordability issues and people feeling like they're being pushed out and maybe not being able to afford rent, we may have to deal with growing numbers as well. So I would like to anticipate that for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Rob Deutschman, what are the priorities you've been hearing?
Yeah, so a few priorities, but obviously, like everyone else, the affordability issue and homelessness. Back in 2018, when I ran for regional chair back then, and just to put this in perspective, affordable housing was the #1 issue back then. And this is before we had the COVID boost in prices that have doubled everything. So it shows you what a crisis it is that we're in. With the recent news and visibility of the encampments, homelessness is shot right up to the top of that. I think we've heard a lot of great ideas and suggestions from the people on this panel. And the mantra, I feel, it should be build as many as we can, as quick as we can, by all means possible. And that applies to the affordable housing issue and to how we deal with homelessness as well. I'm encouraged by the work that the region has done on the affordable housing end, because it is expensive and it's costly, and without upper tier support from provincial and federal governments, it's hard to do as much as you'd like to. But the region has committed to affordable housing. That's at the other end. I was initially concerned about the region's approach to homelessness, especially when we had the issue at Sterling and Cortland with the bulldozers. But since then, I'm very encouraged by what I hear from Peter Sweeney, the commissioner dealing with this issue. And I think that the region is starting to take a more practical approach and recognizing, as we all do, that encampments are part of the housing continuum, not a permanent solution, but they're a reality. People are living rough in our community, just like we do with consumption and treatment sites, so people can safely inject. We have to find ways for people to live safe in our community. Now, aside from that, healthcare and the recent articles about paramedics and code reds has also been starting to come up more at the doors. And, we need to continue to work with the chamber and other groups on addressing the family doctor shortage. That is one of the problems that's causing all these code reds. Of course, the offloading. When I was on regional council in 2014, we had an offloading issue back then, and it just shows you how long these things take to try to resolve. And then finally, we're starting to hear more about climate change with the recent, severe weather situations in the Maritimes and in Florida. Climate change is becoming a significant issue, and I can tell you I've had a lot of conversations with people about what we can do and to continue the work of Transform WR and the great work that's being done there. And we really need to look at, for example, building materials, how we're building, what we're building, in order to make sure that we're keeping on track to our commitment with respect to climate change as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Second question, and we will begin with Mac on this second question here. Many small businesses across Waterloo Region have been severely impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, including mounting debt levels and staffing shortages. What assistance should the Region of Waterloo Council and all municipalities provide to these operators?
Thanks, Jim. I appreciate the answer, the question there. Thank you very much for that. When we go back as a small business owner myself, and we look at this issue, yeah, a number of businesses were severely impacted by the COVID-19 outbreak and the global pandemic that we went through. What I see more than anything, though, is it all goes back to affordability. These businesses, all businesses in this region right now need help. We are running short of employees in pretty much every single sector. And so that lends itself right back to affordability, what we were just talking about. We have to sell the region of Waterloo as an attractive place to live. And if we're looking at this region, and I love it here, don't get me wrong, but we're not selling the mountain views. We're not selling the oceanfront property here. What we're selling is that this is a very safe and affordable place to live and raise a family. And that should be the attraction. If people want to come here, the reason I moved here when I first came from Toronto was I thought the cost of living was way more affordable and I could make it across the city in 15 minutes. And after living for 5 years in Toronto, that was a very exciting thing, just to be able to drive across the city in 15 minutes. And we're losing that. We're losing that affordability. We're losing that charm that we once had in this region. And we need to make it more affordable. We've also got to provide incentives for dealing with local businesses. So I would work really closely with the downtown BIAs as well as the uptown BIA in Waterloo to see what it is they want to do to bring more business back downtown, more business uptown as well, to see what we can do to incentivize people and help them. And the other thing that we're not really talking about right now, but a long-term strategy, if we really want to look a long ways out, the way I'd like to help the people of downtown Kitchener, all those businesses, is I'd like to build a world-class sports, entertainment, and conference facility in the downtown area. I think it's a regional responsibility to do so, and I think it will be the shining star of our region. I believe that we should call it the Waterloo Region Memorial Auditorium. And just think, if we're able to do that, think of how much business we could generate in the downtown core and help so many businesses there. And then think about how many houses we could build on the land where the existing odd currently is. We could still leave a 2-pad arena there and still probably put up a few thousand homes, I think. So those are different ideas. That's a little bit outside the box thinking. We just need to make things more affordable and we need to create reasons for people to come downtown and do business again. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Mac. And Michael Harris, what is when it comes to the COVID-19 pandemic, what assistance should the region provide to these operators?
Well, thanks, James, for the question. And look, as much as we hope that we're, finally out of the pandemic, with the rules having just recently changed for those that can fly, we know that our local businesses are still struggling to make up for, the cost pressures and the fact that they were closed, many of those small businesses throughout the last few years. I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce that participated in the Business and Economic Support Team of Waterloo Region, Best Waterloo Region, along with our other 7 area municipalities, the Waterloo Economic Development Corporation, to really come together and support these small businesses through the many challenges that they did face throughout COVID-19. The region of Waterloo committed to over $1 million locally to support these small business in a variety of different programs, coming out of the pandemic. And we have much more work to do. I will say, as I mentioned earlier, that our region, while we were in the depth of the pandemic in 2021, had a 0% property tax increase for ratepayers here in our community that were obviously feeling the pains of COVID-19. So I know we did our best to support folks financially while still delivering the high quality services. In fact, more pressure on services here in our community, such as police, EMS, social services, and assisting, again, small businesses through these difficult times. As I said, much more to do, and I know our region will continue to work with them. We've got a beautiful community here. I always say that we're a big small town. We've got the values of a small town to help our neighbor. But the big city amenities, a lot of people want to come and move to Kitchener-Waterloo, not only to raise their family, but to start a business. And we need to be, as open for businesses as we possibly can. However, with a two-tier government, that's not always as easier said than done. But we need to provide those necessary supports for our businesses to have them thrive in a local challenging economy like ours. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Tom, when it comes to the COVID-19 pandemic, what assistance should the region and all municipalities provide to the operators?
Thanks for the question. I can only really repeat what Mac and Mike have already said. It is an extremely comprehensive approach that is required to really move forward the small business community in the region. There isn't a magic bullet. When I think of the economic health of the region, I really think of the availability of diverse works for individuals throughout the community. We have to have all the supporting infrastructure, of course, but jobs really drive the economic momentum that this community can have and attract people. Like Mac said, we have to work well with the business improvement group and see what we can do, however we can do it. But ultimately, what we have to have is a robust employment opportunity for the people that live here and the people that want to move here. Right now, we have a deteriorating spectrum, deteriorating diversity. I'm very encouraged by the Amazon development that is taking place in Cambridge. I think that's going to help us all. But this has to be reflected throughout the entire region. An interesting statistic is the graduation rate from our high schools in Waterloo region. In 2019, we were only graduating 83% of students after 5 years of study. 17% were not graduates. That is an absolutely horrific number, and it is intimidating as to what the future holds for individuals like that. So what we have to do is we have to continue on the tech growth that we have had in the community and support them with a vibrant infrastructure, which comes from all different areas, whether or not it's airports or whether or not it's entertainment, all these things. But people have to have jobs. That's where I'll start. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Colleen, when it comes to supporting small businesses coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic, what can we do to provide these operators?
Hi, thank you. So, I've made a point to speak to business owners throughout my canvassing. And one thing that is consistent is that throughout the pandemic, through all of the public health guidelines, the region has been very supportive in helping business to ensure that they've kept on top of what are the requirements. Businesses they're very happy with the support from the region and public health as things were shifting and changing almost daily. However, when it comes to the small businesses and businesses with this community, COVID has not been easy on them. Right now, we're experiencing shortages of staff. There are businesses that are spending the time training new employees, and then those employees leave. That's not exclusive, that's inclusive of the region of Waterloo in particular as well, small businesses. And in terms of creating and supporting these businesses as they train staff, are there programs in place that the region can do to help with some of that offset of costs? I've spoken to businesses, the affordability of rentals, it was brought up in the housing question. There are businesses that have been maintaining rents throughout, taking loans from higher levels of government. The return and people supporting these businesses have not been there. They're struggling to survive. They're struggling to stay afloat. One business is paying $9,000 a month and they just got a rental increase and they're not able to hire staff. So in terms of working with BIAs, working with organizations like the Chamber of Commerce, what are the needs specifically for these businesses? We need to really speak to these businesses before kind of deciding what's needed for them. There are loans in place, but that's not really helping to offset the crisis that we're in. As well, I want to say that the landscape has changed. We need to retain these businesses that have been in the community, as well as retain new ones. It is that being agile, being adaptive. It is the business sector in our community really is just still surviving. COVID has not gone anywhere. It is still here. There is still shortages of staff. So what are we doing to bridge programs with some of those higher education institutions in this region, and to encourage people to stay here again and not leave? Some of that brain drain that keeps happening. We want to ensure that businesses here are able to have supports instead of creating more of a barrier for them. And that will take looking at some of the organizations like the BIA. And we can't forget that the LRT construction impacted businesses as well. That had an impact on businesses. And as soon as we kind of got through that, to some degree in opening up, we were hit by the pandemic. So again, multi-layered here as well. But as a small business owner, having to really be adaptive to what the current trends are is something that is a reality. And with our, a priority is that economic sustainability. If we are not supporting local business, we risk that in the long run. And I'll conclude with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Duncan, when it comes to small businesses being affected by the pandemic, what assistance should these operators be given by the Regional Waterloo Council? Sorry, Duncan, you're on mute there.
Sorry, small business has been suffering for a long time now. As Colleen's pointed out, this goes back through the LRT construction. Obviously, the pandemic has been hard. I have two brothers that are intimately involved with small business. My brother Ian as chamber president, representing 1,400 businesses. And I've heard him discuss many times the difficulties with higher utility costs, higher rent costs. There are no easy answers. My brother Chima and his wife have two M&M food market stores. And labor shortages and the cost of inflation has done to their products, to their margins. It's difficult. They want to pay their staff a fair wage, and they do, but they're struggling. And the region needs to look, and all levels of government need to look at where we really are, honestly. And we need some massive intervention by government, and we need massive intervention by the private sector. Public-private partnerships, for me, are the only way we're going to keep things from really getting worse. Government has to step in and support these small businesses in some form. And it's got to be something that continues to keep employers able to employ people who need and want an opportunity to grow their life. And this is one of the major issues I've seen in my real estate career. Rental rates for small businesses, for small industrial units, go from $4 a square foot to, $12, $14 a square foot now. I mean, and no added value, nothing that is providing any benefit. The low interest rate environment created a massive bubble for many clients of mine, for many residents who all of a sudden see their home values or their building values climb. But the reverse of that is it's really hurt and affected people in the rental market and tenants in business. So businesses need relief. Capping on hydro rates for businesses. There has to be a limit to what we cap, but at some level, if we don't have businesses providing jobs, we're in big trouble. And I've had many conversations with clients, with restaurant owners that I know, and they're seeing utility costs wildly out of control with no benefit, it's not like they have a new service put in place, and no one can explain to them why their utility costs have gone from $3,000 a month to $7,000 a month. We've got a situation here that needs immediate address, and I'm not sure there's a perfect solution out here. In fact, I know there's not, but we need to do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Parkinson, when it comes to the COVID-19 pandemic, what can the region do to provide some assistance to these operators?
Yeah, well, the pandemic has been hard on everyone, and that's no surprise, and that includes small business. So I would look to small business owners as the experts of their craft in terms of what layers of government can do better to serve their interests. And that there are reports with recommendations that are still sitting on the shelf. Some of those recommendations still make sense, but the point is they shouldn't be sitting on a shelf, and we should be acting on them. Someone said that small business is sort of a key contributor to a vibrant local economy, a healthy economy, and I don't disagree. And what has been a chronic issue for more than a decade now for BIAs, whether you're in Kitchener or Cambridge or Waterloo, are some of those issues that are better solved in social services or in health services. And they deeply affect and frustrate small business owners. So, I had a conversation on the weekend, one sole proprietor, small business, probably estimates a loss of about $4,500 worth of material being shoplifted or through broken windows just in the last week. So from, with experience in the drug-related issues and homelessness and mental health, those kinds of things, it is frustrating to watch levels of government devote tons of resources downstream through police, through emergency rooms, through paramedics, and never address the sort of the root causes. And so I think there's an appetite in the business improvement associations to do things differently. And for government more generally, of course, being nimble and being adaptive to support a really heterogeneous business environment, right? So gentrification happens to renters, to people who own homes, but it also happens to businesses. The ION was part of that, but not limited to it. So anything that the region can do or lower tier government to reduce the taxes, to provide for an innovative environment, to provide the infrastructure that addresses, educational attainment, is respectful for labor and the staff in particular, is a really good thing. And we know those are prevention type programs. And when you engage early in life, in neighborhood based, you see better educational outcomes, higher employment attainability, higher labor market participation, less mental health, less substance use, less crime, less victimization. So I think it's the role of government, certainly local government, to provide that infrastructure that will support a robust labor force for staff, and to provide a nimble bureaucracy that acts on recommendations and is able to innovate and adapt in real time.
Thank you, Michael. Ifat, when it comes to the small businesses and the COVID-19 pandemic, what do the Regional Waterloo councillors need to do to assist them?
Well, COVID-19 has been difficult for everyone in the region, but especially for small business owners. And unfortunately, they're still struggling. The big box stores, the big companies, they've moved on, they pivoted, but our small businesses are just getting by. And I think that we need to do greater consultation with our small business owners to get a comprehensive look at what they're dealing with, what their issues are, so we can find solutions and develop an action plan to help them with the issues that they're facing. So labor shortages are a huge issue for a lot of employers. I think someone I spoke to called it the Great Resignation, that everybody's just resigning. And it's a candidate's market. People are not, if they don't like working at a place, they'll just leave and they'll find something better. So I think that supporting people in the region to build a strong labor force would be a great way we can support small businesses, so that they would have more candidates, more people that they can hire, that they can reach out to and have more supports. But I definitely feel like greater consultation with business owners, because a lot of business owners feel like they haven't been listened to. So more consultation and development of an action plan, and actually taking action based on those findings.
Thank you. Matt, the same thing with small businesses. What support or assistance do the Regional Waterloo councils need to provide?
Thanks so much, James. I think we all understand the impacts of COVID-19 on small businesses and other employers across our community. And so I really see the role of the region as we pull through and the sort of final, hopefully, stages of this pandemic is preparing for the next major disruption, whether it's a pandemic, natural disaster, or otherwise, understanding where the vulnerabilities are in our business sector, understanding what some of the changes will be, as people either return to office or don't return to office, and how this impacts our current economic development strategies around office construction and around attracting some of these major employers. So I think this is an important body of work that will need to be undertaken to understand some of the post-pandemic impacts on workforce development. I'd also like to see us continue to attract more residents to our core areas. You talk to small businesses, in downtown Kitchener, Belmont Village, and beyond, who would love to have more people who are there regularly, are attending events, who are frequenting restaurants and shopping at small stores. So continuing to allow more construction and new residents to live in our core areas and main streets. I'd also like to work with the Waterloo Region Economic Development Corporation to also find ways to encourage people to spend money locally. Certainly a large number of our residents live outside of our core areas or away from some of our major entertainment institutions, but there's a great opportunity to attract them to local theaters, galleries, restaurants, venues, and such, and build up excitement for Waterloo Region as a hub for arts and entertainment. Since the pandemic, we've received a number of big artists and great shows as our venues continue to reopen, and that's super exciting. And there's people from out of region who are coming here to Kitchener to spend money instead of going to Toronto. And there's a huge opportunity there to continue to attract those entertainment opportunities to sort of have those spill-on effects to our local hospitality industry. I'd also like to find ways to encourage more students to stay after school. These are people looking for jobs who find a connection to the community and may choose to stay here and didn't grow up here. And so how can we encourage them to stay, to continue to support our local businesses and to also be part of our growing workforce? I think one thing that perhaps hasn't been touched on is that one of Waterloo Region's most exciting attributes is our urban-rural dynamic. And so we've talked a lot about urban economic development, but there is also the element of rural economic development. I'm actually, through my work as an urban planner, I work with municipalities to develop policy and zoning frameworks to actually incentivize rural economic development through on-farm diversified uses. So that's things like little cafes, little tourism attractions on farms, and other sort of businesses that help our agricultural community support their income. I think just last week we saw that this was a very tough year for some of our agricultural growers, and how can we support them diversify their income and also get our residents exploring our rural areas and supporting our businesses in the townships and beyond. So I think this is another key tool that the region can work through the official plan, through the economic development work that we do to incentivize these businesses and also let people know of what tools are available to them. I'll just conclude by saying that we can also continue to grow jobs within the countryside line. I'm really encouraged that we were able to find new employment land through the municipal comprehensive review to build those sort of large employment uses and attract new employers. But we can also get those jobs in our neighborhoods where people can walk and support these small businesses that support our 15-minute neighborhood objectives, where people can walk, cycle, or take transit within a short distance from their home to meet their day-to-day needs. So I think there's a lot we can do, and look forward to working with our small business and other employers in the community to find solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie, when it comes to supporting small businesses through the pandemic, what assistance can counselors provide?
So I have a couple things I'd like to speak to. So the first part was the attracting talent and keeping people here. So we need the basics, adequate housing, services, and ways to get around. I've heard from a lot of people that they just couldn't stay here after school because the neighborhoods they were living in didn't have bus service on weekends. So if you're working a part-time job, a lot of the times you're required to work nights and weekends, and the busing system and transit just did not reach them, and it wasn't working for the ways that they could get around for an affordable way to live. The second thing that I would like to speak to is incentives and grants. So I know there's lots of different options out there, working with other levels of government and different business associations, the Economic Development Corporation and the Chamber, to come up with more solutions and also to direct people to supports, because I think sometimes if you're struggling, it's kind of hard to figure out where to go and what to look for. So I think by having multiple resources and ways to get in touch with people, it will really help with that. I think one of the other things that I've talked to people, I specifically talked to businesses downtown, and I don't know if anyone touched on this exactly, but I've been hearing from people that they're very frustrated with the amount of damages and vandalism and safety concerns that are surrounding their businesses. It's causing people to not want to shop there, and it's also just costing them a lot more money in the long run when they're already hit so hard after COVID. So they would like to see more grants and ways to work with maybe the Downtown Business Association, so that they don't feel like they're just getting hit harder and harder, or even ways to relocate maybe somewhere else. I mean, most of them want to stay. It just might not be economically feasible. But finding something at the same rate, even in the downtown core, just maybe in a little bit of a different area to help them out. That's what I've been hearing from people. And I think that all those options are definitely doable, maybe finding grants that will help with those concerns. And another thing that I've heard from people are working with the cities and municipalities, like Matt touched on, finding ways to have different types of businesses attracted to all areas, because all 7 areas are included in the region. So it's really great to try to work together and find employment that works for everyone in all areas. That's good.
Thank you. Rob, with small businesses and supporting them after the pandemic, what can counselors do to help that?
Yeah, thanks, James. It seems all of us, as we're on the campaign trail, not only are we knocking on houses, but we're also talking mostly to small business people. And we're finding that there is sort of many tales of different levels or types of recovery. Anyone that's in the trades or, is a hands-on business like a restaurant or what have you, like that, are having a hard time finding people to assist them. And as a result, they're having to reduce their hours and days of operation, and it's affecting their bottom line. So it's making it very difficult for them to come through all of this. And on the other hand, you have people who don't have that situation, like a law office, for example, where people can work from home. The only thing that's happening there is now your workforce is competing against people from all across the province, because we're in this age of work for anyone from anywhere. So the pandemic has really changed, as we're coming out of COVID, it's really changed how we operate. But for those that are really struggling, I think the best thing we can do is to continue to work on the sorts of things we talked about earlier, which is housing and affordability. For a lot of people in the trades, business owners, the biggest issue for them is to find people. So not only finding people, because now it's competitive out there, because it seems to be fewer employees are chasing all sorts of jobs out there, but also when you hire somebody, is finding a place for them to stay, to rent, to live in the community. So certainly we can help businesses by continuing to focus on those sorts of things. When I was on regional council back then, we had Canada's Technology Triangle, which was focused on international development. We didn't have a domestic entity that focused on domestic development. And I'm glad that during my time on council, we developed the Waterloo Region Economic Development Corporation, and Tony Lamantia has done an excellent job with that group. And we can continue to focus on bringing new employers here, but if we can't find employees for them to hire, it's going to be difficult. What can the region do specifically? I think we need to continue to talk to businesses, the BIA, the chamber, and consult and say, okay, what can we do internally with respect to regulations that we impose that might make business a little bit more difficult to operate, and how can we start to alleviate that? And certainly the issue of infrastructure, water, utilities, electrical, what can we do to reduce those costs that are being imposed on others? And it's difficult. Infrastructure, the development of infrastructure to ensure we have safe water that we can continue to deliver, hydro, is costly. And it's something that we have to take a look at and see how we can deliver that in a way that makes it more affordable for people. So there's certainly things we can do, but COVID has just thrown the old playbook out the window, and we have to start getting together and figuring out what the new normal, the new playbook is going to be going forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. And Joe, to finish this question, what can councilors do to help small businesses through the pandemic?
It's kind of hit and miss if you go last. Everybody always takes your thunder when you go through it, but I'm going to take this on a little different of an angle. Looking at the affordability side of things, a lot of discussion was on homes, which is absolutely imperative that we need. But we're also not looking at internally what the government can do internally to help pay for all the incentives that everybody has been talking about. We need to look at fiscally responsible government and being able to find ways of saving where we can use that elsewhere. Transit is a huge thing, getting people moving. I've talked to students, I've talked to people that are using transit. Their purchasing power is limited based on their area that they live in. If you get a fair, free fare transit system, as well as expanding, it is people's purchasing that they can use so those businesses can stay open. There's people that I've talked to that work shift work. Transit, they do not have transit system call, but their shift ends at 3 o'clock. So they have to look at going somewhere else. I spoke to a gentleman the other day. He gets off at 3 a.m. in the wintertime. He can ride his bike, in the summer, he can ride his bike. The wintertime comes, there's no way for him to get home. So he's going to have to quit his job for the winter. We talk about ways of saving people's jobs. And if we don't look at getting people to those jobs and incentivizing that way, there's no reason for us to make those incentives if we can't get people moving. We need to look at our transit system and expanding the services that we have, making it easier, getting rid of those barriers for people so that they can get to those jobs. There's no reason that somebody living in Cambridge can't work in Kitchener, other than it takes them an hour or more to get here. Once the ION goes in, that will improve the numbers at that point. However, the way our routes are, it's not feasible for them. Work these to the business side with the BI that we have chamber where the region can and help and major thing that we need to look travel. We need to put more money into that. We need to refocus our efforts. COVID, yes, took a shot at that and kind of blew it out of the water, so to speak. But we need to look at funneling our channels back into that and our energy and resources back into travel and tourism. That's the only way we're going to get the region of Waterloo back on people's radars outside the region.
Thank you. The next question, we'll begin with Michael Harris on this one. Currently, Toronto is the only municipality in the province that has a municipal land transfer tax. The additional municipal tax is a significant barrier for people trying to get into the market, particularly for first-time buyers. Over the last several years, there have been municipalities that have tried to give themselves MLTT powers. Do you support the expansion of those powers to municipalities outside of Toronto? And would you advocate against our community gaining those powers if one of your fellow councillors was pushing for it?
Yeah, I'm absolutely opposed to an additional land transfer tax. And I would, the second part, James, was, would I oppose one of my colleagues if they were pushing it forward? So yes, I would absolutely challenge my colleagues. I'd hope that would never be the case. However, you know what, it is unfortunate that, as one had said, the property taxes are regressive tax. We need the support from both levels of government as a partner at the table to fund the necessary items that are frankly in the purview of provincial and federal government. We know that when budget time comes, both federally and provincially, more and more items will be pushed down onto municipalities. We likely will see that coming as both provincial and federal governments combat their own deficits coming out of COVID-19. And that is why, we need to be as cost conscious as we can possibly be here in our community. We did have an extensive KPMG service review done recently. I'm proud of the colleagues I was able to serve with in us addressing actually a few of those items. One of them being, the expansion of our childcare services here in the region of Waterloo, where we should be focusing on the system, being the system manager and not delivering, childcare services for just a few here in our community, saving taxpayers, well over $1 million. I know that we'll continue to look for savings and efficiencies while delivering, high quality services here in our community. But again, at this time, to make it quick and easy, I would vehemently oppose, additional land transfer tax, and would, oppose my colleagues should they bring that forward.
Thank you. Tom, would you oppose a municipal land transfer tax, and would you challenge one of your councillors who is pushing for it?
Thank you. Simply said, I would be on the same page as Michael. I would not support any additional land transfer tax, and I would not support anybody bringing it forward. We're not in the same category as Toronto. What we should be doing is looking at alternative methods to improve our economic standing. That is increasing our economic base, our businesses, and the workforce participation rates in our community. What we can do is we can look at our property taxes in order to incentivize businesses, to incentivize affordable housing, to incentivize the missing middle. These are things that we can do, and I think that are on the horizon for us to do in the critical circumstances that we find ourselves in. I'm very, very concerned when we talk about providing additional funding for this and additional funding for this, the tax base to do it. And I can't see it through land transfer tax. Instead, we should be looking at other ways to generate funds. So similar to gasoline taxes being rerouted back to municipalities, things like that, as opposed to increasing the land transfer tax. That's basically my position.
Thank you, Tom. Colleen, would you oppose a municipal land transfer tax, and would you challenge any of your colleagues who would may be pushing for it?
I'll say this, currently I would be opposed to that. However, if there was a council member, a fellow council member that would be pushing for it, I would want to understand the reasons why and understand why. We can't look at Toronto and compare ourselves, as Toronto's a mega city and under different dynamics at that level. I think you know, just to tie in property taxes in general, it is a regressive tax. You know, we have infrastructure that needs to be funded, and I don't believe that we should be looking at the tax base to do that. It won't meet the need anyways. And you know, part of my model is about the smart saving, smart spending, and smart investing, and really looking at ways in which we address some of the deficit needs within the region, especially around infrastructure. Short answer though, I do not, I am not in support of that. But I would be open to hearing from fellow council members as to the why, if they were pushing for that, and really looking at and evaluating the reasons behind that. Thank you.
Thanks, Colleen. Duncan, would you support a municipal land transfer tax, and would you push against any colleagues that would be pushing for it?
I would be opposed with the, and it's a bit of a two-tier answer here, the principal residence exemption. So I would say that, you know, we don't want to make it any more difficult on people getting into the marketplace or selling. And so the tax is paid by the buyer, but we need to look at certain segments of the real estate market that could potentially be something that could be a revenue source. Speculative buyers looking to just take advantage of our success. And then when they have made their profit, leaving nothing behind. If the provincial government isn't going to fund us, we are left with difficult decisions, and we'll have to come up with revenue from somewhere. And you know, we need to urge the provincial government and the federal government to come to the table. Otherwise, we're going to have to come up with a Made in Waterloo Region solution. And if there's foreign or national organizations, REITs, or private equity firms that are taking real estate out of play and taking profit and not leaving anything back in our community, then we need to look at it. But again, I don't want to tax someone who's buying a home for the first time, and I don't want there to be a tax on someone who's trying to sell their home. So we need to consider all revenue opportunities, I believe. And I don't think we can afford not to listen to ideas. So I would always be willing to listen to people if they have a solution that I think can benefit the residents of Kitchener and the residents of Waterloo Region. Thank you.
Thank you, Duncan. Michael Parkinson, when it comes to municipal land transfer tax, do you support that? And would you push against any of your fellow councillors if they were pushing for it as well?
Thank you for the question. And it's like Duncan, it's a bit more nuanced, I think, than a black and white type of answer. And if a colleague on council was advocating for a land transfer tax, then I would want to seek their advice. I would want to seek the advice of the Realtors Association and others. So in the main, no, not supportive, but like Duncan said, it's a little more nuanced. So think hedge funds and real estate investment trusts. Think the larger corporations that like Amazon, like the Walmarts of the world, for example. Think also of those first-time home buyers that can receive a credit if they pay the land transfer tax. So the short answer is, and it's key to my platform, is having those voices that have expertise in their craft. In this case, realtors and business associations, homeowners, renters, etc., at the table to really dig into the nuance, because it's easy to say it's a black and white issue. I think it's a lot more nuanced than that. But in the main, no, I'm not supportive.
Thank you, Michael. And when it comes to the municipal, sorry, I lost my spot there. When it comes to the municipal land transfer tax, would you support it, and would you push against any of your colleagues who might be pushing for it?
So the short answer is no, I would not support a land transfer tax. But at the same time, if there is a colleague among council who is pushing for it, I think that it's important to understand why they're pushing for it. And I think that the real estate market is extremely complicated. And like Michael said, it's not just black and white. I mean, if we're talking about a tax for individuals or entities who are flipping homes in our region for profits and driving the prices up, I think that's something that we should look at. But for people who are just trying to buy a home, it's their first home, or if they've been in their home for many, many years and they're selling and they want to buy another home, I think that for sure they should not be paying any additional taxes. But if we're looking at people who are profiting from our housing market and driving our prices up, I think we can look at taxing them in order to prevent that kind of not behavior, I would say, those kind of transactions from happening so often, so as to just lock out young home buyers from the market. So it is a gray area, as Michael mentioned. It's not black and white, and I don't support taxing home buyers, people who plan to live in the home, people who are buying their home for the first time. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. And Matt, with the municipal land transfer tax, would you support that or push against any of your colleagues who might be pushing for it?
Yeah, thanks so much, James. And like many of my colleagues on this call have said, I would reject the notion of this tax on a principal residence. But what I think this concept of a land transfer tax highlights is the need for more municipal financial tools to raise money and to fund important initiatives. As Michael Harris pointed out, downloading is ongoing and will continue to ramp up to local municipalities, to the region, and to our cities and townships. And so I'm very keen to explore new financial tools that we as a region can use to achieve our goals, especially around affordability. This can start with policies around protecting existing rental stock and first right of refusal policies for some of the stock to avoid those real estate investment trusts from scooping them up and displacing those residents, and supporting operators like cooperative housing operators to be able to afford and to acquire these properties and to operate them at sort of these deeply affordable points. It also points to ways through our rapid transit expansion, whether it's ION stage 2 into Cambridge or stages 3 and beyond, that we look and advocate for tools to secure value along these corridors. We saw a significant amount of growth in the region due to ION, which is fantastic and it's really exciting, but it also places pressure on our infrastructure that we need to build. And there are ways that, that other communities and other jurisdictions are able to raise funds from those developers who and landowners who see those financial gains certainly adjacent and near rapid transit. I'd also like to explore new financial tools like municipal bonds to fund important projects that we've all talked about, whether we're talking about building publicly funded housing, whether we're talking about transit expansion, whether we're talking about building safe, connected, active transportation links. There's communities in Ontario and beyond who are looking to tools like municipal bonds to raise the capital costs to fund these initiatives. And I really think we need to diversify how, as a region, we bring in revenue and how we fund our capital infrastructure costs, because solely putting it on the property tax base, as has been stated already several times today, is regressive and is certainly would further contribute to our affordability crisis. I'll conclude by saying, as we head into the 2023 budget and the competing financial pressures that are in front of us, I think we can focus on that delivery of core public services, to make sure we're reducing that impact to the property tax levy, and just continuing to do things to maintain our long-term financial sustainability, whether it's holding the countryside line and or otherwise, to ensure we're not further contributing to our infrastructure deficit. So I think there's a multifaceted sort of answer to this question, and we can find different ways to get creative as a region. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Carrie, when it comes to municipal land transfer tax, would you support that? And would you push against any other your councillors who were pushing for it?
I personally would oppose it, because at the doors, I've been hearing already about so many people, they're concerned with the level of property taxes that they're currently paying and just affordability in general, like we've mentioned 100 times. I think it also might disproportionately affect younger people, first-time buyers, and people that are moving to the region, and we're trying to attract talent and keep them here. So I think that it probably wouldn't be the best idea. I would listen to the reasons why another person would push for it. I don't know if I would be vehemently opposed to the person and try to push back, but I would personally oppose it. I think that there are just other options, like reviewing policies and programs, looking at large projects coming, looking for efficiencies and savings, and looking to new revenue streams. So there are lots of different options, because we do need to pay for things at the regional level, and it's getting a little bit harder with more demands on services. That's my position.
Thank you. Rob, would you support a municipal land transfer tax, and would you push against any of the councillors who are pushing for it?
Yeah, thanks, James, for the question. First off, no, I would not support a land transfer tax. I'm, very concerned about the home affordability part of it all, and this is just adding more cost to that when we're trying to find ways to reduce costs or do what we can as a municipality, as a region, to try to assist on the affordability piece. Certainly, the nice thing about municipal politics, though, is that if people can come to the table, we all come with our own separate lived experiences and views and philosophies, and we can have a discussion and a debate about the pros and cons of a particular issue, and then have a vote on that issue at the end of the day, and then move on to the next issue. And so that's the nice thing. We don't come to it with a strict policy platforms where we have to adhere to, a party line on anything. And so that's the beauty of municipal politics. Now, that all speaks to the issue of trying to find, more money to do what we want to do. There's never enough money to do what we need to do. And there has been significant downloading from the provincial governments onto us without the opportunity to raise the revenue needed to support those policies that have been downloaded upon us. There have been some sort of caucuses through AMO, like big city mayors or what have you, that have said, hey, look, provincial federal government, you draw millions and millions of dollars in tax dollars out of our community, and we just want a small percentage of that back to us, unrestricted, without your particular policies or goals, and give us those dollars without restriction so that we can spend on what we need to do, because we at the local level know best what our local community needs, not someone at Queen's Park or someone in Ottawa. It was mentioned about KPMG, and when I was on council in 2010 to 2014, I moved the original motion that brought KPMG in as a third-party consultant to take a look at how we deliver services in, because Staff does a good job at reviewing internally where they can find savings. But we would always get those every budget year. We would hear about these savings that staff would find. But as a elected politician, we have to appreciate that we are the board of directors of this thing called the Region of Waterloo, a $1.5 billion entity. Staff is there to provide us with support, but at times we have to make sure that we are delivering services the best we can. And KPMG was brought in to do that. And that's one of the ways that we can, look internally to try and see how we can save money. But we need to find other revenue sources if possible. And we need to continue to advocate at the provincial and federal levels to send us money, as blunt as that is and as stark as that is, so that we can do what we need to do, what we understand we need to do it at our own level. So thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Joe, when it comes to municipal land transfer tax, would you support it or push against any councillor who was trying to push for it?
Simple answer, like everyone else, is no, I wouldn't support it. One of the things that Rob touched on recently there was advocating the provincial governments. We as municipal governments, and not a lot of people understand this, we have the most direct impact on the citizens of our region. And this is, for me, the most important election that anyone can be voting in. Speaking with a lot of the workers for the region and workers for the city, they have something what's called weeklies. And what these weeklies are is a job that they have to do. There's sometimes 2, 3 of them. Go out there and fix or correct something that wasn't installed properly in the first place. These are the things that are wasting taxpayers' dollars weekly because they weren't installed, and so that they don't have that. We need to turn save and invest in properly on things that need to be fixed. We talk money, more money. Absolutely agree with. There is ways for the region to do that. The problem being is when we get that money, what are we doing with it? What are we investing in? We need to and use that term, investments. We need to make the proper investments so that we can have a return on that investment. Spending these wages for people to go out and correct something weekly that should have been done right in the first place, I don't agree with. We need to look at what those are, correct them so that the cost of those stop now and move forward. We need to be fiscally responsible with the taxpayers' dollars and fix these problems.
Thanks, Joe. And finally, Mac, when it comes to the municipal land transfer tax, would you support that? And would you push against any councillors?
Hey, James, thanks. Yeah, much like everyone else, currently I would oppose such a tax. I mean, right now we talked about this for a half an hour already. The goal is affordability. We have an affordability crisis on our hands right now. Why would I add an additional tax at this time that would only contribute to making housing more expensive? I do believe, though, we need to raise more revenue. The way we raise revenue as a municipality is through property taxes. So realistically, to me, if we want to raise more money, we need to speed up the approvals process. I mean, I believe it was Colleen that said, we're about 15 years behind on the building that we need to do in this region. Let's get these buildings approved. Let's get these places going, and let's charge the property taxes that come along with having these places built. That will increase our revenue stream. That will increase the tax centers. If we can get affordability back down, maybe we can start to convince some of the people that are moving to Tavistock or to Drumbo or to Milverton to come back and live in Kitchener, because it'll be more affordable. That'll be more property taxes we can gain. Affordability is the key here. That's what we need to focus on, not on adding more taxes.
Thank you. We'll now go to concluding remarks, and we will begin with Carrie with the closing remarks when it comes to this forum. And please, if you can keep it to a minute, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again for this opportunity to address Kitchener residents and answer important questions for voters. We need to be mindful of the current climate with rising prices and increased taxes and work toward a balance of efficient services and development without overspending on large projects that are not a priority. We need to be working toward providing the infrastructure and services necessary to attract and retain talent while developing sustainably. We also need to invest in local businesses to create a climate of innovation and economic success. But ultimately, we need to invest in our people. We need to provide housing in all capacities to deal with the housing crisis and rising rental costs. We also need to move beyond last-minute emergency measures to deal with homelessness and implement permanent strategies that will set us up for future success where nobody is left behind. A lot has changed in the past few years, but our sense of community remains. Let's build on that. Thank you again, and please vote Carrie Williams on October 24th.
Thank you. Matt, we'll go to you now for closing remarks.
Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in, and thank you so much for the Chamber for hosting this afternoon's forum. I really appreciate this opportunity, and I look forward to bringing my skills as an urban planner, skilled facilitator, and community leader to Regional Council. Let's have those proactive plans in place. Let's think to the future of Waterloo Region to 2051 and beyond. I will bring a fresh take on leadership. I'm a renter, I don't own a car, and use our regional services on a daily basis and understand the importance, the important role that it plays in folks' day-to-day lives. On October 24th, vote Matt Rodriguez as one of your 4 choices for Regional Council. Thank you.
Thank you much. Thank you very much, Matt. And Ifat, we'll go to you for closing remarks now.
Thank you to all the viewers for tuning in. All of the regional policies are interdependent, and every regional issue has a domino effect to other issues. Our region is growing rapidly, and this has affected the entire region. I will take a holistic approach to planning for our region. As I've shared previously, I'm a mother of 3 children. I'm a woman of color. I have worked with vulnerable people fleeing persecution. I will approach the issues with empathy, compassion, and I will make sensible decisions for our region. I will not ignore data, studies, and scientific facts when making decisions. I think having a diverse council will be beneficial for our region, and I hope you vote for Ifat Riyasat on October 24th. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Michael Parkinson, we will go to you for closing remarks.
Thank you, and thank you to all the candidates who have upended their lives to make a run in this job application process we call regional counselor. And thanks to the sponsors and people viewing, for sure, it really does matter. And my hope is that we see greater voter turnout this time around. I would love your consideration to run for regional council. I think if you're looking for progress on issues of homelessness, on the drug poisoning crisis, on climate change, on crime prevention, community safety, I think I'm a pretty safe bet. If you're looking for an authentic voice that is places equity at the core and comes up with collaborative, pragmatic solutions that are grounded in evidence and the wisdom of community, I'm probably a solid choice. I encourage a more preventative approach rather than reactive downstream type approaches. They're more expensive, they're more harmful, and I'm interested in the greatest return on investment for taxpayers. Those are solutions found in prevention. So I encourage people to visit the website, www.parkinsonmichael.ca for more information, get involved, and most importantly, on October 24th, get out and vote, make an informed choice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. Duncan, closing remarks.
Thanks so much. The region of Waterloo has, in 2022, has a $1.266 billion operating budget, and a $698 million capital budget. That's $2 billion a year. We need to find money to solve our problems today. Looking at where we're spending our money currently, we need to look at a lens for the future. We need money for affordable housing today. We need money for seniors tomorrow and in the years to come. As I mentioned earlier, 1 in 5 in this community in 8 years will be 65 and over, and they all need our support. And finally, the official plan review is underway, and that's going to tell us as a community how our land is used, where people are going to live. We have climate change that is here. and causing damage throughout, and we will not be exempt from that. And I would like to be involved in the official plan review to help make sure that we have a balanced approach to where we're going to live and where we're going to work. And my experience on the board of directors for the Child Witness Center, for Habitat for Humanity in Waterloo Region, and currently as the vice chair for Kitchener Housing, I understand these issues. I understand the limitations that organizations have, including regional government. So we need to find better ways. What we're doing right now is, I would say, average. We can do better. We're a tremendous community. I love living here with my family. Grown up here, I've been involved in the community, volunteering and working with businesses, and for 25 years. And I would ask for your support and your vote on October 24th. Thank you.
Thank you, Duncan. Colleen, we will go to you for closing remarks.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in and hearing some of what the next regional council will be addressing and the perspectives we may bring to the table. Thank you to the Chamber and the Waterloo Region Association of Realtors for sponsoring this forum, and James Sebastian Scott for moderating, and to the candidates who are present today. A council is not to do as they see fit, but to represent the community. Over the past few months, I've spoken with thousands of residents who have helped me understand what is important. The key issues that I'm hearing include housing, access to services, smart investing, reconciliation, the environment, safer communities, and transportation. We have had some of these conversations today. I look forward to being a part of this next regional council to bring meaningful change through trusted relationships with all residents. I'm a community builder who leads with my values. I am embedded in this community and serve on various committees and boards. And I ask residents to vote for Colleen James on October 24th. To learn more about me, visit my website, colleen-james.ca. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom, we'll go to you for your closing remarks.
Great. Thank you very much for this opportunity to talk. The well-being of children and youth is the guarantor of our future. Their success and ours relies upon workforce participation in an economy that enables us to address environmental issues and social concerns. If either well-being or work is threatened, it's reflected in mental health, and then the other agendas falter. The foundation for all of us is a support network, particularly the family when people are young, and work opportunities. Housing, economic infrastructure, and social concerns are priorities, but expenditures must be balanced and accountable, or the foundations are risked. I will apply transferable, analytical, and managerial capabilities to boost those fundamentals. Thank you very much. Please consider Tom Hiller for Regional Council.
Thanks, Tom. I know Michael Harris had to jet, so we will skip over him and go to Mac for closing remarks.
Thank you, James. And thank you to the Chamber of Commerce and the Waterloo Region Realtors Association for hosting us today. I appreciate that. Today seems like almost everything we're talking about these days is a crisis. We're living through a housing crisis, an opioid crisis, an affordability crisis, a healthcare crisis, and a climate crisis. I feel like we're at an inflection point in history in this country, province, and in our region. The next 4 years may be some of the most challenging that any regional council has ever faced. I'm asking you, the residents of Kitchener, to vote wisely. If you're looking for a person who will bring common sense to the decision-making process, then I'm your candidate. If you're looking for a person who believes a society is judged by how we treat the least fortunate among us, then I'm your candidate. And if you're a person who still believes in the Canadian dream of working hard and owning your own home, then I am your candidate. On October 24th, vote wisely. Vote Mac Graham.
Thank you, Mac. And Rob, will go to you for your closing remarks.
Or Joe?
Oh, yeah, you're right. Sorry. Joe, we'll go to you first. Sorry. Thanks, Rob.
Thanks. I want to thank the fellow candidates. It's not an easy task that we have all taken on. Thank you to the Chamber and the Association of Realtors. And thank you to everybody that's tuning in to watch this. As I mentioned before, this is the most important election to get, hoping that the numbers rise and for the amount of people that do municipal direct impact on everybody's lives in our community. Focus my energy, counselor, on affordable housing. With my backages, I know where the challenges are. Getting more homes built. I'm an outside the box thinker. We need to look at different ways of and different types of housing to cut costs down and get them built faster. Transit is a huge thing. If we don't get our people moving, it doesn't make sense for us to have it. We have a beautiful ion train that looks great driving by, but our current routes and services are not feeding to that properly. So we need to look at expansions and changing of routes to make sure that people can get to where they need to go. We need to make it more affordable for people, reduce the barriers. There's services that we provide to our homeless, to our mental health issues, people with mental health issues, people with addictions. We have those services, but they're not accessible to those because of the cost of our transit system. We need to look to get ourselves to a free, fair system. Those are and other things discussed here. As a regional council, just that. I was on the region. We are not typically three. We also the townships. 2018 Conestoga with the town issues, and I will definitely help out with that head on. To find out more about me, joe.gowing@.com, and I hope you will vote for me on October 24th. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe, and Rob will end with you on closing remarks.
Okay, thanks, James. I want to thank the Chamber, our sponsor, the Realtors Association, you, James, for moderating, and my fellow candidates for the opportunity to have this discussion today. There were a lot of good ideas shared by all today. As we emerge from the pandemic, we are facing very turbulent and difficult economic times. The region will face some crucial issues in the near future. High inflation, gas prices, rising labor costs, supply chain issues. We will see significant financial challenges. I want to make sure that the region of Waterloo remains a strong, welcoming community with a solid economic base, maintain a strong credit rating, and at the same time, I want a regional council that works for the benefit of all in our community. I want to bring my experience, record of accomplishment in business and municipal matters, and my energy, drive, and fresh perspective to the Regional Council Horseshoe and work with fellow councillors to ensure the prosperity of Waterloo Region is shared by all. I invite the viewers to explore my website, robforcouncil.ca, and learn about my background and take some time to review my policy platform. And most importantly, get out and vote. Vote Rob Deutschman for Regional Council on October 24th. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. On behalf of the Chamber, I'd like to thank all candidates for taking time from their busy schedules to participate in this forum. If you're a resident of our region, the municipal election date of October 24th is rapidly approaching, so please ensure you're aware of voting location. The Chamber hopes this forum has provided some relevant perspectives on your issues of concern. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for viewing the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo and Cambridge Chambers of Commerce Candidate Forum for Mayor for the City of Kitchener. My name is James Sebastian Scott from City News 570, and I'll be moderating the discussion today. The Chamber would like to thank the newly formed Waterloo Region Association of Realtors for their support of this event, and we expect the upcoming exchange of policy positions will assist you in making informed choices around your vote on October 24th. The format will include questions on issues of particular concern for businesses and employers across the region of Waterloo. However, we trust that all viewers will find the content informative and engaging. We'll start the 1-minute opening remarks from candidates who accept our invitation to participate. In alphabetical order, they include Manny Nair, Val Niekman, and then Barry Verbanovic. The rotation will continue through the question phase. Closing remarks will work in reverse order, starting with Barry, then Manny, and then Val afterwards, and then provide a 1-minute opening statement now. So Manny, you can begin with your opening statement.
Thanks, James. It's a pleasure and honor that I've been invited to participate in this online panel discussion. My full name is Manigandan Nair, but friends and others call me Manny Nair. Me and my family, we have been living in Canada for almost 21 years, and we have been in Kitchener for a very long time. I currently work at University of Guelph in the field of cybersecurity, but I'm very passionate about community service, helping others, and finding solutions. So basically in 2018, I started an initiative called, me and my couple of friends, we started an initiative called Namaste Debate to help promote good candidates to run for office, help them the back-end support to run, and to provide all the required information. During that time, I became very active in community, but later I realized that in order to make changes and the solutions that you're proposing, you need to be in position of power. So that's why this time I decided to run for mayor of Kitchener, because the mayor is the face of the city. And if you want to know more details about me, you can always visit my website, which is www.votefornair.ca. Thank you.
Thanks, Manny. Val, will go with you for your opening statement here.
Good morning, Kitchener. My name is Val Niekman. I am from Kitchener, and I've been here for over a decade. Kitchener is my home, and I own a small shop. I provide consulting services to companies both in Canada and the US. Enterprise Architect is the title that I carry when I win those contracts. Now, when I look at Kitchener, I see a beautiful city, but I also see a city that really needs help. It needs help of somebody that understands that this region is a tech region. It used to be a tech region. It used to be prosperous. It used to be on the map. No more. We might have a little bit of problem with all these companies that they want to relocate here because they just don't know what Kitchener is and where Kitchener is. Luckily, they understand Waterloo a little bit, so I could say, hey, you know, when you come to Waterloo, before you go there, and there is Kitchener. I want to change that. I want to make sure that everybody knows where Kitchener is on the map, and I want all the companies find us, come relocate us, put a shop here, and hire our talented individuals locally, and through the income that we generate that way, we're going to build a prosperous Kitchener that is way better than now. That is my plan. Thank you.
Thanks, Val. And Barry, will go to you now for your opening statement.
Thanks very much, James, and thanks to the Greater KW Chamber of Commerce for organizing today's debate. I'm Barry Verbanovic, and I've dedicated my life to public service and have been passionate and tireless in serving you as your mayor for the past 8 years. This past term, we've approved our new economic development strategy with investments in pandemic recovery, affordable housing, and investments in creating new jobs in areas like health innovation, while keeping our taxes amongst the lowest in the province. We're supporting regional, federal, and provincial governments in areas around housing affordability and homelessness through our Housing for All strategy built on housing as a human right, and our own investments as a city in affordable housing. And we continue to invest in quality of life in our neighborhoods with new recreational amenities such as RBJ Schlegel Park, the new Huron Community Center, and our award-winning Love My Hood neighborhood strategy. I look forward to today's discussion about how we can continue to work together to build a better Kitchener together. Thank you.
Thanks, Barry. We'll now go to the question portion of the discussion. And the first question will begin with Val. Val, based on your recent discussions with voters, what is the priority issue in this election?
Right now, the priority is homeless and homelessness because they are everywhere. They're visible, and people are worried about their residents. They, at some point, they want the city to be clean, the parks to be empty, and return to the residents so they could walk their kids and grandkids. This is the highest priority as far as the discussion that I've got with the voters. Of course, that directly ties into the housing affordability because it's on their mind as well. The prices for rent is through the roof, and people really have difficulties, especially students that they come from different towns, different countries even. They come here, they can't find a place to rent. The accommodation is not there for all these students that they come to us. These two are highest on the agenda. I've talked to a bunch of voters. They're very unhappy with the way that our system works as well. They just want the old faces to go away and the new faces to come in. Yesterday, I got an email and the guy goes, "We need a change." And I said, you know what? If you need change, I am that change. So these are the things that I hear from people. They're just fed up with the same old way of doing things. Just keeping the taxes low is not going to cut it this time around. That is the feedback that I've got from the voters. Thank you.
Thanks, Val. Barry, will go to you. Based on your recent discussions with the voters, what is the priority issue in this election?
Thanks, James. Really, I'm hearing about three main things from residents in our community. Certainly, housing affordability and the homelessness issue is significant, but that's not unique to Kitchener or Waterloo Region. In fact, it's the single largest issue being faced by urban centers across Ontario and in fact, across Canada. In our own community, we've seen the homelessness numbers grow in the region from over 300 pre-pandemic to over 1,000 now, according to the point in time count that the region did. And we've been working hard with our other orders of government, in particular the federal government, in terms of new construction, provincial government in terms of supports for wraparound services, and so on. The issue of housing affordability is a significant one, and there's many factors at play here. But certainly, as a city, we've been doing a lot by approving the new regional official plan, the work we've done in terms of improving efficiency in the planning area, as well as looking at approving things like tiny homes and so on, which are now permitted in the city of Kitchener. From a climate change perspective, that is a big concern for young and old alike. We are seeing the impacts of climate change across Canada and across the world, quite frankly. And most recently, we've seen the significant hurricanes, both in Atlantic Canada and in Florida, and the impact that they're having. And lastly, I'm really hearing from people that what they want to make sure is that as we come out of this pandemic and look at recovery, they want to make sure that not only are we recovering better, but that we're recovering differently, and that we're building a city that's inclusive and has a high quality of life for everyone. And that's what we've been striving for and will continue to strive for going forward. Thanks, James.
Thanks, Barry. Manny, last answer to you. What is a priority issue in this election for you that you've been hearing?
You know, before I talk about a lot of issues, first thing I want to do is, as a leader, is take accountability. Because if things are happening elsewhere and it's happening in my city, somebody has to take accountability, right? If a problem is happening somewhere else, that doesn't mean it has to happen here. So that's where we have to take leadership and take onus on it and make it a priority. I know housing is a big issue, and it requires a collaborative effort between city, region, provincial government, and federal. We need money, right? The other thing, what is happening with the housing is we have more people coming in and less houses being built. At the moment, we need 9,000 affordable housing. Where is the money? Who's going to give us? Right now, the federal government is giving billions of dollars for the whole of Canada, but that's the money that we need for the region alone. So we need to go from balanced immigration. We need to go from mass immigration to balanced immigration for next 5 to 7 years. But the leaders have to speak up, because immigration is like a vote bank kind of thing. So as a leader, I'll have to talk to the federal government and the prime minister to talk about all these issues frankly. So housing is a big issue. Even in housing now, there are two issues. One is affordability housing. The other is homelessness. So there are people who are making money, but they can't buy a house. That's a different issue. Then there are people who have no money and they're homeless. You go to Victoria Park encampment and you see this is not the Canada we live in. So somebody has to deal with it. And there are a lot of addiction issues that is going on and mental health challenges. And this basically combination of these two is basically having issues even on the public safety side. So public safety is a big issue. A lot of people are complaining, businesses are complaining their business are being vandalized in downtown. Nobody is taking action. We keep talking about it, but we need to strengthen our criminal justice system so that somebody before vandalizing think twice. So housing, public safety, addiction, mental health, those are the four primary, but the fifth one I like to add is public transit. We need to add better public transit for businesses and residents to coexist together in a happy manner. Thank you.
Thanks, Manny. The second question, we'll start with Barry on that one. Do you support the Strong Mayors Building Homes Act that was recently passed by the Ontario legislature, and should it be implemented in the city of Kitchener?
Thanks very much, James. And it's certainly a question that I've been asked a lot about. And as you know, the provincial government at present has put that legislation in place only for the cities of Toronto and Ottawa, and may consider it in the future for large urban centers, cities over 100,000, for example, across Ontario, like the city of Kitchener. Personally, I can tell you that both in my time as a mayor over the past 8 years, or even previous to that as a member of council, I would be hard pressed to think in the city of Kitchener where I would have ever used that, or quite frankly, where my predecessors would have used it. Our local government system is a nonpartisan system that's actually based on collaboration and building a consensus around council, ideally. And when that's not possible, obviously, votes are part of our democratic system and decisions get made by that. But we look for the things that actually are common agenda items that we can move forward as priorities. And so, as I say again, in our community, I haven't seen a need for it, but I have seen in other cities across Ontario, and quite frankly, in my work with local government across Canada and beyond, where it's at times maybe been necessary. I think really it's going to come down to the details when the province brings forward the legislation. But as a mayor, as I said, I've never had to use something like that. Can't think of a time when I would have. And my approach is an approach of collaboration and team building on tackling the issues important to our residents.
Thank you. Manny, do you support the Strong Mayors Building Homes Act that was recently passed by the Ontario legislature?
Okay, there are pros and cons to that approach. Like any solution, it has pros and cons. So we have to, it all depends who is in the position of power. If there is a person who has an arrogant attitude, and that person will definitely try to veto on all other issues. So I don't like that approach also. Collaboration definitely is the first preferred method that I have. But I've seen scenario even in the current city council, there are basically two groups now. One is pro-mayor, one is anti-mayor. And in this case, what happens is the pro-mayor group, which has a little bit of majority, they are able to get away with all the policies. And the other group doesn't like that. So that is also a problem. I think in this scenario, the mayor has to take a decision, but being personally a politically homeless person, I will be a neutral partner in this. But if I need to be as a leader, if I need to take a decision when there's two conflicting opinion, then I think in that scenario, getting more power for mayor is beneficial. But again, it all depends who that person is and who's in that position and what kind of attitude that person brings in. Thank you.
Thank you, Manny. And Val, we'll go to you for the last answer on this question. Do you support Strong Mayors Building Homes Act?
some part of it. Endless debate is not going to help anyone. So we need somebody powerful, somebody who's the buck ends with that person. We know that the mayor is the highest elected official. Why do we call it highest elected official in the city? At the end of the day, the key to the city is given to the mayor. The mayor has to have some power. The mayor has to have some discretionary budget. The mayor cannot just run around and take votes every time they want to promise something or spend $5,000 here and there. We are not trying to create another United Nations. When you create a United Nations, it's all talk and no action. I've listened to all the sessions of the council, or most of them. They're available on YouTube. Go search it. It is just talk. They're sitting there and they're just bored out of their minds. We need action. So absolutely, the mayor has to have more power. I don't exactly agree with the way that they've worded it, but the mayor has to have the power, discretionary budget that goes with it. At the end of the day, the mayor should walk out and say, hey, deputy mayor, deal with the rest. I've made my decision up to this point. We want the mayor to have power. And I'm going to use an example. RIM disappeared. Why do you think RIM disappeared? Because RIM had two CEOs. They could not make a decision. He was in gridlock. So you know what happens? They were fighting, and then Apple came and ate their lunch. I believe that the buck has to stop with one person, and that person is the mayor, highest elected official.
Thanks, Val. The fourth question, we will start with Manny, or the third question, sorry. Manny, currently Toronto is the only municipality in the province that has a municipal land transfer tax. The additional municipal tax is a significant barrier for people trying to get into the market, particularly first-time buyers. Over the last several years, there have been municipalities that have tried to give themselves the MLTT powers. Do you support the expansion of those powers to municipalities outside of Toronto? And would you advocate against our community gaining MLTT powers if one of your fellow councillors was pushing for it?
I think I'm personally against land transfer fee. That's all I can say. I think there is no, if we want to promote housing affordability, we need to make sure that the processes are easier for people to buy a house. And during the process of buying a house, they don't have to worry about unnecessary land transfer tax. I think for city, it may be an additional tax revenue, but I think the way I think is when you put more money into people's hand, indirectly people will spend that money and that will stimulate the economy. There are other ways to generate taxes. Businesses are paying taxes as well. But personally, I'm not in favor of the land transfer tax. Thank you.
Val, we'll go to you next. Do you support the municipal land transfer tax?
Absolutely not. And the reason for that is politicians, they sit there and they have nothing to do and they come up with new terms. If the land has not been transferred, a friend of mine goes, the land is still there. I didn't move it. Why should I pay for something that he was there? I bought the property. Why should I pay something that at least we should come up with better names? I only approved land transfer tax for foreigners that they come and purchase the land. We transfer that land to somebody that doesn't belong to Canada yet. If they come to Canada and they want to buy our lands, they want to buy our homes, definitely land transfer tax for that to prevent a lot of people coming here and bringing cash and outbidding everybody else who lives in Canada. So conditional just for the foreigners. For residents of Kitchener, for Canadian, no, absolutely not.
And Barry, we'll end with you on this question. Do you support municipal land transfer tax? And if one of your fellow councillors was pushing for it, would you advocate against that?
Thanks very much, James. And, in listening to a number of these responses, one of the things that I think is really important for folks to understand is what legislatively, in terms of the Ontario Municipal Act, we as mayors and as cities can do and what we can't do. It is key in a democratic system that we, in fact, make these decisions collectively and not at the whim of a single individual. On the land transfer tax in particular, it is not something I support. I think the land transfer tax as it is, as the provincial government has in place right now, is already putting enough added burden onto home purchasers, whether they're transferring or buying a new home. And in fact, have seen an increase in their revenue stream because of real estate prices and the volume of transactions that are going on. This is an area where, in fact, the provincial government could actually be investing to assist with affordability going forward. But I think what your question gets at is the bigger issue, which is fundamental, and that is that cities today can no longer be sustainable on a model that's purely built on the regressive form of property taxation and a limited amount in terms of other fees that they collect. That is not sustainable. And Kitchener and other cities, both through our national association, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and our provincial association, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, said it is time that we bring forward legislation by the provincial government and by the federal government that changes the fiscal arrangement and the relationship between those order of government and cities and communities across Ontario. It's no longer sustainable the way it is, and we need to make those changes going forward to deal with the complex issues that as cities we're faced in dealing with today.
Thanks, Barry. Next question, we'll start with Val on this one. What do you propose to bring more economic activity into Kitchener, particularly the downtown core area?
Downtown core area, due to the LRT project that I believe that it was ill-conceived, horribly executed, and left us in debt for many years to come. Downtown was damaged. Many small shops, they went bankrupt. They will never come back. And the way that they've designed the roads, the accessibility is not there. People cannot drive easily and park easily. They've made some horrible mistakes. And we have to make sure that if we have any densification for people who do not have vehicles, we should find lands and buildings around the core and promote that densification. And that in turn brings people who work in downtown and they walk around and then they go to these shops that they're gonna open, and then they get the economy going. The economy of the core, you asked. I believe that we owe the folks in core downtown big time. We have to make sure that we do everything in our power to bring the vibrancy and the livelihood that they had back. That is what I'm going to do. The downtown is what everybody visits as soon as they come to Kitchener. They want to go to downtown to see what's going on. A lot of students that they come to our universities here, they want to party. We have to acknowledge that. Sometimes they want to come to downtown and spend their money there. We have to prepare the downtown for them. Downtown is the eye of the city, and we have to make sure that we take good care of it. Right now, at least on the road design, downtown is gridlock. It's not accessible easily. So I have to address that when time comes.
Thank you. Barry, what do you propose to bring more economic activity into Kitchener, particularly the downtown core area?
Wow, surprised, James, to hear that something like the LRT was ill-conceived, because in fact that decision by a previous regional government has created billions of dollars in new investment in our community and thousands of jobs in our community throughout Kitchener-Waterloo. And it's why the region is now looking at phase 2 going down to Cambridge, because in fact when you talk to companies that are looking to invest, they're looking at 21st century public transit and infrastructure being in place, whether it's taking an LRT, a bus, looking at cycling, walking, and so on. All these things are important. From an economic development point of view, the City of Kitchener has made significant investments that have literally created thousands of jobs in the City of Kitchener, leveraging our investments with those of the private sector and other partners. I think of our first $110 million Economic Development Investment Fund, which brought the School of Pharmacy, Wilfrid Laurier's School of Social Work, as well as the McMaster Med School to downtown Kitchener. All of those have had significant impacts, as have our support and investments in Communitech. Recently, we approved a new $110 million fund, and out of that, have invested $8.5 million into a new health innovation arena with University of Waterloo that will support up to 75 new companies and 750 jobs. It's where U of W Velocity will be moving into. We've committed to $15 million to Conestoga College towards a creative industries campus. Why? Because those are where the jobs of the future are going to be. We've supported a citywide startup network. And in fact, one of the other exciting things we're doing is opening a new SDG incubator in downtown Kitchener that is going to support both sustainability focused and social enterprise type small businesses that are led by new Canadians, that are led by women, Indigenous people, as well as those in the African, Caribbean, and Black community, because that's exactly the kind of stuff that we want to build in our community, a range of small businesses to large ones going forward. Just one small example. Google originally came to downtown Kitchener with 200 employees. There's over 1,500 in Kitchener today. I can add Applied Board, Vidyard, and so many others, Desire to Learn, who are all part of our city's story. Thank you.
Thanks, Barry. And Manny, we'll end with you on this one. What do you propose to bring more economic activity into Kitchener, particularly the downtown core area?
No, if we want to talk particularly downtown, I've been to different parts of the world. It's one of the boring places here in downtown. The main thing is activity, right? We have businesses, but if we compare to Toronto and Kitchener, Kitchener is nothing. So the way we can attract that is we need to have activities in downtown areas. Like a lot of cultural activities will help. That brings in a lot of people, and that actually helps small businesses because then they will go to local shops, buy things, that's basically another way of investing into economy and is good for the businesses also. So we need more cultural activities in downtown. The other issue that I see right now is what Val mentioned is LRT. So I'm supportive of LRT, but the problem is it may be beneficial in long term. Short term in downtown, like I frequently go to downtown, there are 10 different signs there. It's very hard to navigate. Like you literally need 10 eyes to be, very safe and turn left and right. The pedestrians walking, LRT is there. There are bicycle, there's lack of clarity on the bike lane. So those are confusions, right? So that I don't feel safe in some part of downtown walking. The other reason is especially after hours, because a lot of addiction issue. And if you see in some part of downtown, the crowd doesn't look to be so friendly. So we need to tackle that issue before even we build condominiums there. We're building condominiums, all these luxury condominiums. People with money can buy, but how do you tackle downtown social issues? So we need to deal with that. But I feel if we have more cultural activities downtown, especially during winter times, because summer people are traveling around, different parts of the provinces and countries and, those kind of things. But in winter, if we can make it active. So as a mayor, my suggestion would be to do more cultural activity, just like I will learn from what Quebec is doing. We have to learn from Quebec. See, we should not say that we cannot, if we see something good happening in other parts of the world, we should embrace it, right? There should not be any claim that, we have to be unique. Learn from it. It's much more easier to do things. So I would like to see something like the Quebec model where the downtown is vibrant, where everybody goes to Quebec, says, wow. And if you go to the Kitchener downtown after 7, 8, nobody there. After office hours, is almost like hardly a few people there. Only during special festival, maybe Oktoberfest or something, you see people there. So we need to make it more vibrant, but that requires more cultural activity in that way. So we can stimulate businesses that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Barry, we'll start with you on the next question. The population of the region of Waterloo could reach 1 million residents in 30 years. What are the infrastructure priorities required to support this growth?
Thanks, James. Those are certainly significant issues and really require a lot of good planning and thought by all orders of government. As you know, the region recently approved the regional official plan, which is focused around building 15-minute neighborhoods, not just in Kitchener, but in fact throughout the region. And that's important for a couple of reasons. Number one, it helps ensure that we keep our infrastructure investments focused in terms of new roads, bikes, trails, sidewalks, and so on, while also making sure that we preserve our countryside line and the investments that are needed in the suburban areas of the city, which are generally covered by the costs of development in terms of construction, but then the operating costs rest on the city. Key as part of that growth is making sure that we also are able to process and accommodate the various types of housing that's necessary, various choices for people in different stages of their life. So whether they're looking at living in a condo downtown because they don't want to have a car, they want to use public transit, they want to cycle, whether they want to live in a suburban environment, whether it's in a townhome, an apartment, a single family house, whether it's somebody who has an extended family or an aging family and they want to be able to have a tiny home in their backyard. It's about ensuring that we have the appropriate infrastructure in place in terms of roads, sewers, sidewalks, water, gas, utilities that in our case, the city of Kitchener owns. We're in fact one of only 2 cities in Ontario that own our gas utility, both us and a portion of Kingston. And having those amenities actually allow us to invest in so many other things in the city, like recreational facilities like RBJ Schlegel Park and the new Huron Community Center, which just opened this past weekend. Thank you.
Thanks, Barry. Manny, the population of the region could reach 1 million residents in 30 years. What are the infrastructure priorities required to support this growth?
At the moment, if you look at the growth, even with the current number, it's a disaster. You look at hospital wait time. People are after hours for non-critical care. People have been waiting for 3 to 8 hours at the ER. Like, who is raising these issues? So we can say, we invite people, that's fine, but where are they going to live? Where is the housing? So I'm supportive of sustainable growth, not just growth for just, high-rise buildings. But when you build a house, you have to build a community. We need hospitals, we need doctors, we need nurses. Who is lobbying for all these things? This has been going for a very long time. So that's why we need a change and leader who speaks on this issue. It's unacceptable, like 3 to 8 hours in the hospital. Okay, the other thing is the human resources within the city of Kitchener. I'll just tell you, a few weeks back, I called City of Kitchener Utilities for my personal reasons. And I waited on the phone for 1 hour. And the same normal tone, we have been experiencing larger than call volume. This is the standard thing. The main thing is we are not hiring many resources for that. So we have more people coming in, but less human resources and capacity. So I will support for sustainable growth. But like Mayor said, we need to build community centers. That is good, but community center will only sustain when we are in good health. So we need to invest in our hospitals. I also propose that we need a medical college so that when doctors come in, after the graduation, they stay here. They don't go somewhere else. I've been saying this for a very long time, but I never see the current leaders even mentioning this on Twitter or social media. All they do is photo op opportunities, attending events, taking pictures, and show all these rosy good pictures. But the reality is black. So when we hide things, we can never fix the issues. So we need clean water. The other thing what I'm seeing right now is we are paying more for water than hydro. I don't see a reason. Canada has the 2nd largest water reserve in the world, freshwater lake. And why the water bill is so higher than hydro? Nobody's talking about this. So all this has to be looked into. So as a leader, I will review all these policies and see how things go. Thank you.
Thanks, Manny. And Val, the population of the region could reach 1 million residents in 30 years. What are the infrastructure priorities required to support this growth?
When I started my talk today, my opening statement said that I'm running a small shop, enterprise system architect. Whenever I go and I try to win a contract, this is what I sell my contract and my capabilities to the potential client. I will design for tomorrow but I build it for today. This is exactly what I have planned for Kitchener. We are going to make sure that we don't paint ourselves in the corner. We will design for tomorrow, and then we build what we need today. And the next mayor is going to build for what that time requires, and so on. But the design of the city of tomorrow has to happen now. We should not just go there and try and err and see whether it works or not. We design for tomorrow. We build for today. I want the people that come to Kitchener to be of the right kind. You know, whoever that buys a building, buys a property, they come in. We cannot stop the migration of folks coming to Kitchener. So that, I put it aside. It's out of my control. But I want to attract talent here because I need the city of tomorrow to be designed and built by those folks. So I have to make sure that whoever that graduates from the University of Laurier, Conestoga College, University of Waterloo, I have to find ways to keep them around because those individuals, those young folks, they're the one that will build the city of tomorrow. But we have to make sure we design it properly and we design it today and leave room for growth. That's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Manny. Many small businesses have been severely impacted by the pandemic. What financial assistance programs do you propose to keep these operations viable?
You know, I'll be very honest, if I get elected as mayor, I don't want to promise something that I don't have power to do. Like one of the things as a city mayor I can propose is reducing property tax. Even at the time of pandemic, when things started, all this COVID pandemic started, I suggested a couple of suggestions. The one thing I suggested was reduce credit card interest rate. And that also Ontario government did that. The other thing I suggested was reduce the property tax. But I think later on the federal government also provided subsidy. But in terms of jurisdiction, the only thing the city can do and help the business would be sort of reduction in property tax. But again, we also have to maintain the city infrastructure and the staff salary and all those things. But we can look into that aspect. But if businesses are struggling, definitely one thing I like to see is reduction in property tax. This is the same proposal I also made for seniors with one income earners. If there is a household with one income earners, reduce their property tax. And that's what city has the power. But this also requires council support also. But personally, I support that idea. The other thing we can do is how to bring investment into Kitchener. Sitting here, attending events won't bring us investment. The only thing we can do as a leader, like I do like to do, is try to connect with different chamber of commerce with different countries. Like one of the chambers I like to connect with is the Indo-Canada Chamber of Commerce. They're very powerful. And right now I like to focus on emerging market. So talk to them and see what we can do to bring investment here. So that is another way of stimulating the economy. We need to we need both employees and employers. Without that, we cannot sustain. And right now, the way things work is when politicians are invited in the labor union meetings and all that, they tend to support on the employees. When they're invited in a business meeting, they tend to support businesses. But I always think we need both, and we need to find a balance where both, as a leader, we support a healthy employee and employer relationship to enhance the business. Thank you.
Thank you. Val, many small businesses have been severely impacted by the pandemic. What financial assistance programs do you propose to keep these operations viable?
Small businesses are like the pennies, are like the dime and nickels. The pressure of the economy is on their back. They contribute the most. We have to make sure that they have enough money to pay the minimum wage increase, because we want to increase the minimum wage. With the inflation like this, those folks there who are on hourly wages, they have to make the ends meet. They have to do that. And so City of Kitchener has a lot of tools that could use to provide these small shops with a little bit of assistance. Like if we could reduce property tax if they have a rent and that is skyrocketing and they by day basis. We could help them out with rent. We could do many things with gas, like current administration has increased the natural gas rate by 10% this year. 10%. Well, we could reduce that for small businesses. We have to leave money in their pockets so they could pay their workers. We have to make sure that the small businesses, they don't go bankrupt. If they go, it's going to be a chain of events, and the city is not going to prosper. At the end of the day, we have to do that. The other things that I really want to do, I want to move the election day to a holiday, to a Sunday, because there are a lot of small businesses that can afford their workers take 2 hours off to go and vote. So if they don't vote, guess what? Only senior citizens that they don't work come and vote. And, you tell the senior citizens, I don't raise the tax. That's their keyword. They say, okay, we're going to keep the same face around. We have to make sure that we do all of the above. Some small businesses that they really need help right now are reaching out, but they can't do anything because the minimum wages keeps going up, and they just look at the balance and they cannot balance the budget. We have to assist them as well. But I'd like to pay for whoever that comes and votes 2 hours. They should get time off to come and vote. This is especially applicable to the small businesses. But I prefer to move it to a Sunday, the election.
Thanks, Val. And Barry, many small businesses have been severely impacted by the pandemic. What financial assistance programs do you propose to keep these operations viable?
Thanks, James. It's a really good question, and there's no question that particularly over the past few years of the pandemic, it's been tough on small business in general, but particularly those in the hospitality, the arts and culture sectors, and things like tourism. They've been the most impacted. Some have actually done a little better. I know, in talking to some restaurants and so on, with all the people that were ordering out and takeout, if they were able to pivot quickly, they actually did a little better over the time between what their business was experiencing, as well as some supports from the federal and provincial governments. I think it's important when we're talking about this, some of the suggestions that my colleagues are making are actually illegal. They're not permitted. Under the Municipal Act. One of the things that cities can't do is bonusing. And bonusing means giving an advantage to a particular business. You can't create an unlevel playing field. So anything we need to do, A, has to apply across the board to all businesses, small and large. And B, it's important to remember that, in fact, who doesn't have those bonusing rules is provincial and federal governments. And that's why we often partner with them on some initiatives. In terms of small businesses, there were a number of things that we did during the pandemic, and we worked collaboratively together with our other municipal partners, the region, in fact, the Greater KW Chamber of Commerce, as well as the Waterloo Economic Development Corporation, to assist small businesses where we were able to, and again, in partnership with provincial and federal governments. Most recently, as an example where we've collaborated, the City of Kitchener ends up partnering with the provincial government in the case of our small business center here in the city and throughout the region, and then with the federal government in the Main Street program. And that program, in fact, is supporting small businesses in downtown, in the Victoria Street corridor, the Fairway Road corridor, and others. And in fact, just this past weekend was at the African Superstore on Victoria Street, who was having a Nigerian Independence Day celebration and trying to raise awareness about their business, get more people out, and so on. And so it's those kinds of initiatives that we do. In addition, during COVID-19, the city set aside and invested $5 million in economic recovery programs, again, in the areas where we were able to assist. And it's part of our ongoing work in terms of our EDIF, Make It Kitchener 2.0 strategy, where there are dollars set aside to support the continued growth of small business, both in the downtown and throughout the city, whether it's in the downtown, the Belmont Street area, and others. Thank you.
Thanks, Barry. We will now go to concluding remarks from the candidates and from me, the moderator here. So Barry, we will commence closing remarks. If we can ask to keep it to a minute, that'd be appreciated. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you very much, James. And let me begin by thanking the Greater KW Chamber of Commerce for hosting this debate and for all of their incredible partnership over the past few years during the pandemic. And James, to you for hosting today's important discussion. In the 8 years since you chose me to serve as your mayor, I'm proud of what we've been able to accomplish together to build a better Kitchener. Since 2014, we've built stronger neighborhoods, we've grown into being one of Canada's fastest growing economies, and we've worked towards building a better Kitchener that is a more inclusive and equitable city for everyone. Elections matter. Your vote matters. Today, I'm asking you to continue to put my experience to work for you to provide the strong and steady leadership our city needs to seize opportunities and tackle the challenges before us, protecting the gains we've made and making sure we come back stronger than ever. Today, I ask for your continued support and for your vote on October 24th. For more information, please visit my website at www.barryonline.com. Thank you.
Thanks, Barry. Val, we'll go with you for concluding remarks as well, and please keep it to a minute if you can.
Thank you, KW Chamber of Commerce, for this opportunity. Look, I'm not a career politician. I don't regurgitate past notes. I might not be polished, but I will talk to you directly. And I tell you that in the past, we had systematic and historical disadvantage that was created by previous administration and government. They moved the election to certain dates and that only the elite could vote because the folks that they needed to put food on tables, they just couldn't take time off. So anything that is illegal now, I'm here to push for removing it. I don't want to break the law, but I could change it. And I'm that change. Anything that is putting somebody historically or systematically at a disadvantage when it comes to voting has to go. At some point, we have to wake up. We cannot just follow the past just because somebody put it there and it's in the law. We will change the law. I push for that change. I want everybody to have the chance to come and vote. I don't want the choice to be between food on the table for your kids or the vote for the mayor. You should have the right to come and vote without worrying, okay, am I going to lose my job if I take 2 hours off? I'm going to change that law. I might not be able to do it as a mayor, but I will push for it. You need somebody to push for it. I'm here to make a change for better. Diversity is great. Everybody's equal. I treat everybody equal. But if somebody in the past, systematically or historically, was at a disadvantage, I have to count that in. I just cannot follow blindly the mistakes of the past. I have to be the element of change. I am the element of change for you. And I might not tell things that you want to hear, but I tell things that you should hear. Don't just focus on property taxes remain the same or low. Do not be fooled with rhetorics like that. Just remember, I'm here to make sure that I change the old ways, the old habits. I am the element to change for you. Thank you, Kitchener. Looking forward on October 24th. Val for mayor.ca. Out.
Thank you, Val. And Manny, with your closing remarks, please keep it to a minute as well.
So I'd like to thank the Chamber for giving me this opportunity to speak and express my opinion and suggestions. In my closing remark, before doing that, I just want to acknowledge that kudos to all the healthcare workers that we can say that our pandemic is almost over, without which a lot of in-person meeting could not have happened. I'm glad today we are able to do online meeting, but I just want to acknowledge that. So I am Manigandan Nair. And in short, my name is Mani Nair. If elected as mayor, I'll be a transparent and reliable mayor that you can count on. I will give whatever it takes to build a better Kitchener. I believe in open communication, and your suggestion will be incorporated while making decision. There won't be any unilateral decision of the mayor or the council. I'll make sure public input is taken seriously. The other thing I want to focus is integrity. So even if the law permits, I won't, for my campaign funding, I won't take any money from businesses that have direct connection with cities, nor will I use their land to put my lawn sign. So I just want to make sure I won't compromise with my core values, like no moral corruption. So I want to make sure that people know what kind of person I am. So to learn more about my platform, please visit my website. It's votefornair.ca, votefornair.ca. And on October 24th, I would like you to make an informed decision. Your vote is very important because in 2018, only less than 28% people voted in Kitchener. 72% people didn't vote. So I just request you to all go and cast your vote either on advance poll on October 12, 13, 14, 15, or on election day, October 24th. So thanks for listening. And please remember, together we can make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone for their closing remarks. On behalf of the Chamber, I'd like to thank all candidates for taking time from their busy schedules to participate in this forum. Thank you so much for participating and have a great day. Hi, everyone, and thank you for viewing the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo and Cambridge Chambers of Commerce Candidate Forum for Chair for the Region of Waterloo. My name is James Sebastian Scott from City News 570, and I'll be moderating the discussion today. The Chamber would like to thank the newly formed Waterloo Region Association of Realtors for their support of this event, and we trust the upcoming exchange of policy positions will assist you in making informed choices around your vote on October 24th. The format will include questions on issues of particular concern for businesses and employers across the region. However, we do expect that all viewers will find the content informative and engaging. We'll now commence 1-minute candidate opening statements through alphabetical order. After a series of questions following this same rotation, 1-minute closing statements will be provided in reverse order. Our candidates joining us today is Karen Redmond and Narayan Datsukram. Karen Redmond will provide an opening statement.
So I too would like to thank the Chamber and you, James Sebastian, for this forum. You know, when we think back to 2018, who could have predicted what would unfold? The past 4 years have been challenging, and I'm proud of how the Waterloo region responded to the pandemic and managed the vaccine rollout while continuing to move forward with sound investments for the future. The region matters to each of us as business people, as families, and as a community, and how you see yourself in the region greatly matters to me. The region, led by its council, sets goals for the future. We make things happen through partnerships, visionary leadership, and our diversity of voices. Together, we work towards building the best community we can be. So you can see how being chair of the region is a significant role. As your chair, I respect the trust you've placed in me, and I welcome the opportunity to continue to lead the conversation on identifying the region's priorities for growth, prosperity, and social responsiveness. I've frequently been asked what is the big issue in this election, and I can tell you they're all big when you're in the middle of them. Certainly housing affordability, attainability, and homelessness are complex problems requiring long-term solutions with partners across the community and at all levels of government. From my perspective, this campaign is about leadership and the ability to plan for the future and also to respond to that which cannot be predicted. I look forward to discussing a range of topics with you.
Thank you, Karen. Narayan will begin with your opening statement now as well.
All right, thank you for having me. So my dear fellow listeners and viewers, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Narayan Datsukram, and I live here locally in the region of Waterloo. It does not matter how long you live here, but I've lived here almost 30 years. I educated myself here locally and beyond. I currently hold over 12 university degree, including a leadership and master of social work. And I'm currently finishing off my doctor of social work, specializing not only in leadership, but also in clinical work as well too. I believe that a regional chair position has to do more with the leadership skills that we have. Well, Ronald Reagan once said that politicians are not the solution, they are the problem. So I want people to listen to this debate very keenly, because as much as leadership experience is important, I have the the right kind of leadership that is important to move this region forward without any question. I believe that my almost 30 years of grassroots contribution to this community at the grassroots level, working with a variety of different people and with a variety of different projects, are all solid pieces to lead this region. So I look forward for this debate. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll now begin the question portion of the forum here, and Narayan, will begin with you on the first question. Based on your recent discussions with voters, what is the priority issue in this election?
Well, one thing I can tell you is that my conversations started off not since when I put my name forward for this regional chair position. It started off years ago. And one of the biggest things I'm hearing is the disconnect between the politicians and the people and poor leadership. When I talk about poor leadership, think about it. We have 75% of the regional councillors are leaving, right? And so poor leadership, disconnect between the politicians and the people. Obviously, we know about the pieces about housing and homelessness and so on, but there's nothing much we can do moving forward if we don't have good leadership to bring a team together so we can work on those pieces as planned. So that's what I'm hearing. Disconnection, between the people and poor leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen, what's a priority issue in this election that you've been hearing from voters?
So I was in Elmira yesterday knocking on doors, and it was environment. It was a sense of place. It was the relationship between area municipalities and the region. It was looking, I hear a lot about healthcare. I hear a lot about the school board, neither which are the purview of regional council. But, I cannot not comment on the speculation as to why long-term councillors are not seeking re-election. We have had an amazing council. Nobody could have predicted what the last 4 years have been. Many of my council colleagues are choosing not to run again after 30, 35 years of providing public service. And I would tell you in an exemplary way. And a lot of them have reflected on the fact that new voices, more diversity, a council that reflects the demographics of our community are the things that they are promoting. And they're going out and they're knocking on doors of young female candidates, Black candidates, and trying to make sure that our council continues to work forward. But I think it's disrespectful to dismiss these decisions. A lot of the colleagues I have that aren't running again really did a lot of soul searching because they recognize how very important the role of regional council is and the difference that we make in the lives of the people we represent almost the next day. And those are businesses, they're the community, we're helping shape the future. There has been a lot of very hard work done, and none of these individuals made that decision lightly. And I commend them for building a very solid foundation from which we can move forward and continue to do investment in the future.
Thank you, Karen. We'll move on to the second question, and we'll begin with Karen on this one. Many small businesses across Waterloo region have been severely impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, including mounting debt levels and staffing shortages. What assistance should the Region of Waterloo Council and all municipalities provide to these operators?
So I have to say that I am absolutely impressed with how the business community stepped up during the pandemic. And I look at the formation of Best WR, and that was the presidents of both of our chambers of commerce, that was representatives of Communitech and Waterloo Economic Development. And they provided a lifeline and input for supplies of PPE, letting people know, and the regions supported bundling and buying of PPE when it was very scarce. As we go forward, there have been provisions made by the federal and provincial government for businesses. I know that during the pandemic, I was on a conference call with a lot of local restaurateurs. And while they were worried about their individual investment in their business, they were truly worried about the mental health of their staff who were being whipsawed into working for a couple of weeks and then not working and having to apply for served. So what we did as a community is the region invested money, about $60,000 in mental health supports that businesses could direct their staff to apply for. And throughout the region, all of our counseling services provided group mental health and individual mental health services for people. So I think there's a lot of ways that through economic development, we can continue to meet the needs of individual businesses. But I think as far as tax relief, those are things that we have lobbied and will continue to lobby the provincial and federal government for.
Thank you. And Narayan, what assistance should the region of Waterloo Council and all municipalities provide to small businesses who have been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic?
So I think that it is important for us to educate businesses that when you are advertising a product or service, make sure that you are providing and serving to that standard. So for example, I try as a local citizen here, I try to shop locally as much as I can. And I went to the farmer's market and I shop. And I was excited to buy some garlic. When I came home, the garlic says came from China. So that is a problem. So I think the education piece, we have to educate people that if we want to support local businesses, they have to make sure that they are doing things that represent what the people want. That's one thing. But also, obviously, we will have to continuously work with different levels of government. Let's not forget here that we have several MPPs and several MPs in the region who have promised to do a lot of pieces for the businesses. So I will think that it will be part of my role, not only to work with them and have a coffee, but to hold them accountable so that the businesses can flourish moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Narayan. Next question, we'll begin with Narayan on this one. Currently, Toronto is the only municipality in the province that has a municipal land transfer tax. The additional municipal tax is a significant barrier for people trying to get into the market, particularly for first-time buyers. Over the last several years, there have been municipalities that have tried to give themselves MLTT powers. Do you support the expansion of those powers to municipalities outside of Toronto? And would you advocate against our community gaining those powers if one of your fellow councillors was pushing for it?
Yeah, so for me, let's not forget here that I'm running for regional chair. And I don't operate in a way where I make decision on my own. A leader should never make decision on his or her own. As I've been looking on the website of all the regional councillors, it looks like they have the solution for everything. So if I was to get it, my job will be easy, right? Because they have all the solution. So what I will be doing, I think it is important as a leader, I think it's important for us to recognize our own skill set. I have my own unique skill set, and I, as a leader, I have my weaknesses as well too. But I always believe that when you can recognize your weakness, it is an automatic strength. The first step, because being a leader is not about me anymore. It is about the people, what they want really. And my first thing will be having that conversation with the regional councillor to see, to know not only of their ideas, right? Because if we are listening only to their ideas, it means that we are just doing things based on how we see fit. Because at the end of the day, we are representing the people. So for me, it's getting a sense as to what is it that the people want, right? That's the bottom line, and then take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Narayan. Karen, when it comes to the MLTT powers, would you support the expansion of those powers to municipalities outside of Toronto? And would you advocate against our community gaining those powers if one of your fellow councillors was pushing for it?
So James, I really appreciate the question. And I would have to tell you that Toronto has the Toronto Cities Act. So they are sort of a different animal than the rest of every other municipality in Ontario. And they have many authorities that the rest of other municipalities don't. There is only one taxpayer, and I would have to tell you that there are some things in the Toronto Cities Act that would be nice to have in the region of Waterloo. This is not one of them. There's only one taxpayer, and the reality is we work at the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, which is a provincial organization, as well as through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, to make our voice heard, to say that there is only one taxpayer, and we have to be responsible in how we budget and what our taxing authority is. It's interesting that Minister Clark has just announced and had proclaimed the Strong Mayors Act, and that only applies in Ottawa and the City of Toronto. The devil is always in the details, so we look to see what the Strong Mayors Act actually entails. But I would have to tell you, I'm happier to have strong cities and strong regions. And I think when we work collectively, always representing the best interests of our constituents, that is the best way to go forward. So I would not support this particular aspect of the Toronto Cities Act, and look at other ways that we can encourage investment in building affordability of housing and a variety of mix of housing. And it is one of the things, again, that I've talked to people at their doors about, and that is the regional official plan. We have recently, probably about a month ago, referred our regional official plan to Minister Clark for his comments, and being able to bring that local lens and those priorities to how we move forward for greenfield expansion, for 15-minute cities, for complete cities, so that you can live, work, go to the pharmacy and buy groceries in your neighborhood, no matter what corner of the region you're in, whether it's rural or urban, is really, really important. And I think those are the kinds of things that I continue to advocate to the province, to say it's very important that our voice is heard and that we have that local autonomy for planning.
Thank you, Karen. We'll go to the next question and begin with you, Karen, on this one. What do you propose to bring more economic activity into the region of Waterloo?
Great question. And, you know, I would have to tell you that during the pandemic, the region of Waterloo, our almost 4,000 members of our staff continued to work towards the investment in very large infrastructure. I think of the King Victoria Transit Hub. I think of two-way all-day go. We're getting there. We're not there yet. The investment and the partnership in the Breslau GO station with Metrolinx. We have had a historic expansion investment of $35 million into the airport. All of that connectivity is very important so that we continue to attract investment and talent into the region. We also have the East Side Lands, and we're looking, I just came from WISA, actually, which is an organization in partnership with the University of Waterloo, the airport, and NavBlue, and it is looking at sustainable aeronautics. All of these things continue to keep us on the cutting edge of implementing technology. We're all going to continue to fly, but we need to do it smarter, and we always need to have an eye on our footprint in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. You know, in addition to that, we saw the opening and investment of $123 million into the bus maintenance facility on Northfield. That allows us to service articulating buses and electric buses, and we've invested in installation of charging stations. It's smart growth, it's planned growth, and it's focused to, again, continue to move forward so that we can be the world-class community that we know we can be.
Thank you, Karen. And Narayan, what do you propose to bring more economic activity into the region of Waterloo?
That's right. Good question. You cannot be a world-class region if you don't have a safe region, right? So we have seen crime is going up and so forth here, right? Despite the fact that we have the chief is making almost $400,000 a year. So the thing is, if we are able to do our piece to make sure that our city, our region is safe, there wouldn't be any need for us to knock on doors to bring people here to operate their business here. We have to create ourselves in such of a way that people will be coming to us, not we going after them. We go after them because people are not coming to us. And so for me, start with a safe, and start with a safe city where people feel safe. The thing is, you do not hear people talk about these pieces. They try to put it underneath the rug. So for me, start with safety, and unless we clean out all of this mess, people wouldn't want to do business here. All the other pieces, we can work our way around it without any question. Thank you.
Thank you, Narayan. Next question, the population of the region of Waterloo could reach 1 million residents in 30 years. What are the infrastructure priorities required to support this growth? Narayan, we'll begin with you on that question.
So first of all, when you're leading a region, you cannot do guessing game here. So we keep hearing that, the region will grow, will have X amount of numbers coming in, right? So the way I've seen it, most politicians, most people, they are looking at the glass to be half empty, right? They are not looking at the glass to be half full, and that's a problem. And so for me, it's about recognizing and try to do an assessment to understand who are the people I'm coming in here. Are we just seeing the negative pieces and say, oh my goodness, people are coming, we have to find them, find them a place to live here? Or are we going to try to figure out and see what skills are they coming in the region with, right? What resources are they coming in with, right? And we assess from there. We have to make sure that we understand who are the people coming in, how long they're coming in here for. Are we just going to come for a year or two? And so forth. So without doing a proper assessment, we cannot do anything else. We cannot say that, okay, we're going to do this and we will try to build, several thousand of homes and so on. How do we determine that? If we are going along that path, it means that we are working in a blind spot without any question, without realizing it. So that's how I will tackle it. Analyze the situation first, see who is coming, focus on the resources. Don't rely on a small circle of people to solve the problem, right? Thank you.
Thank you, Narayan. Karen, the population of the region could reach 1 million residents in 30 years. What are the infrastructure priorities required to support this growth?
So James, that is the question of the moment. I would have to tell you, the region of Waterloo is poised to build our share of homes that are part of the 1.5 million target that the province has set out in 10 years. As a matter of fact, we have over 35,000 units in the planning process at different stages. And the regional official plan accommodates that kind of growth, and that growth and employment land will happen in all 4 townships and all 3 urban settings. There is no doubt that the 3 absolutely outstanding post-secondary education institutions we have for decades attracted bright young people that have enjoyed the quality of life and decided that they would make the region their home. And that's not going to change anytime soon. What we need from the province is investment in schools and infrastructure. We need a new hospital, and we need to, again, have those completed communities so that people can buy groceries, go to the pharmacy, and we've invested in transportation so they don't have to always rely on their car. All of these things add to the quality of life, and we need to be vigilant. It was interesting yesterday, the University of Waterloo School of Architecture in Cambridge unveiled their project of tiny homes. And I think our history in our region has been built on great ideas, bright young people, innovation, high tech, advanced manufacturing, and then the ability to bring that kind of innovation to the marketplace. So I thought the tiny homes was a really interesting variation on how we continue to build housing. But there is no doubt that accommodating 1 million people by 2051 is going to require the efforts, investment of all levels of government.
Thank you, Karen. Next question, we'll begin with Karen on this one. What financial support should the Ontario government provide to the region of Waterloo?
That's pretty easy, James. More. I would have to tell you that my experience in government has taught me that governments like solutions. They want you to go to them with a focused ask and be able to demonstrate the result of what that ask will be. Homelessness in the unsheltered encampments are a topic that I hear about in the media and I hear about at the door. And I would have to tell you the investment in the House of Friendship on Weber Street, giving wraparound service in a different model, the outstanding leadership that Bridges has brought to housing people. During the first wave of the pandemic, 80 people who were then living unhoused found permanent housing. We have to go to the government and say, we need investment in shelters and interim housing. We need more money for outreach workers. We need more money for healthcare providers and partners so that they can provide the mental health supports. So it's being focused and asking for things that we know will make a difference. And that means doing your homework, listening to experts like outreach workers, like our partners. It needs We need the development community to be part of any solution going forward, whether it's housing or making sure that we have the kind of shovel-ready land so that we can attract investments. So it definitely speaks to going to the government with a focused ask and with your research done. And we do that at the federal government. We do that at the provincial government. And don't forget, 60% of all services delivered at the municipal level are delivered by the region. So the social determinants of health are huge for us. Ontario Works is. We are the manager for shelter, for childcare, and we need that partnership to be funded by the provincial government for those services. As healthcare, it is both provincial and federal that we will go to them for dollars. A new hospital is something that everybody is talking about. I'm a huge proponent of healthcare being delivered in the community as well. So we have lots of challenges, but we've got a lot of very smart people working on what those solutions look like.
Thank you, Karen. Narayan, what financial support should the Ontario government provide to the region of Waterloo?
That is a good question, because not everybody has the experience working with a very small budget. And that's what set me apart here, because working for nonprofit and profit as well too, and working for small businesses and so forth, you basically work with a very small budget, and you make things work. One of the things I would like to say here, it is easy for us to talk about homelessness and so forth, right? Because that's what we are seeing, right? The common example, we talk about the situation by Weber and Victoria. One thing I would like people to know here, as a clinical social worker, and this might be of surprise to you, believe what I'm saying to you here. My clients, none of them are homeless people. They are police officers. They are vice principal. They are teachers coming from mental health services. And I think it gets overlooked. We have to remind ourselves that we cannot feed off an empty bucket, right? I would have not known, have I not risked myself, but kind of challenged myself to get into mental health, because mental health has never been my thing. I avoided it for many years, but that was part of my way to try and close the gap rather than reading on a piece of paper. And so I start to look at things differently now, because for me, seeing homeless people down the street is an opportunity for us to do some deep self-reflection. Because how the heck are we going to help the homeless people if we ourselves need that help? It's very sad. To come back to the question though, and I'm almost finished here, I think it is important for regular families and so forth to have that support, to have permits and so forth to be approved much faster. I took on a project a few years ago to turn a bungalow into a legal duplex. So I understand the whole process, and it was such of a long process. Inspectors will come; they're not sure if they should pass it, not pass it. They're not sure of all of this kind of pieces. So it was such of a long process. Another thing I would suggest as well too is that we need support where everybody can be part of the solution. Meaning that for me, when we're building houses now, I think it should be automatic where we are putting in a side door to have access to the basement for future use. In fact, 11 years ago when I built my home, I was thinking along the line because I'm an outside of the box thinker, so to speak. I paid $1,000 extra to put the side door to make my basement, usable space, and I'm glad I did. So I think we need to start to think along those lines, and not to kind of put a Band-Aid on top of another Band-Aid. It doesn't work like that. We need to look for long-term solutions. So those are the direction I'll take. Thank you.
Thank you, Narayan. Next question, we'll begin with you, Narayan, on this one as well. Do you support a new Highway 7 between Waterloo Region and Guelph?
Absolutely. I mean, we talk about the population, will grow. And we all know that study shows that. In fact, believe it or not anymore, I've did my share. I commute to Guelph for 10 years back and forth, right? So I see the need, I understand the need because I've been there. And the fact that the region is, is growing, absolutely, I do support it. I think that's not something that most people will kind of go against, because keep in mind, I talk about the housing piece that I've done, really, right? That's just an example. We have to look ahead. So my answer to that is absolutely 100%. And how will we do it? I mean, we really can do, like I said before, running for regional chair is not a one-man show. We really have to, you really have to have a, you cannot rely only on political experience. I think that's where we fail, because as I mentioned earlier, Ronald Reagan once said that politicians are the problem. They're not the solution. You have to have people with passion. You have to have people with a drive to make it work. So yes, that's my response to the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen, do you support a new Highway 7 between Waterloo Region and Guelph?
I do, and I would have to say I think most people are scratching their head when the land assembly was made decades ago, and successive governments, including this current provincial government, have said that it's a priority. But I would also add that I think two-way all-day GO completion, the GO transit hub and King Victoria hub also provide the alternative of public transit, and a line coming from Cambridge into Guelph is really important too. So yes, I support completion of the highway, but I think we have to continue to give viable alternatives for public transit to residents.
Thank you. That now concludes the question portion of the forum. We'll now go into closing statements. Narayan, you can begin your 1-minute closing statement.
1 minute. Come on, James. My dear fellow listeners and viewers, again, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for inviting me here. I was not invited previously, so do know I appreciate this very much. We live in a different time here, and the bottom line is we really have to start to think differently, and that's how I operate professionally with my clients, because if they're doing the same thing every day, I cannot change anything about their lives. I'm just there to kind of guide them. At the end of the day, they have to make those changes, right? But I'm there to guide them, and I've seen lots of successes. What I'm saying here is that we as individuals, obviously, we have the kind of mindset, right, that we are going to do things a certain way. This time around, I'm asking you to kind of have an open mind and an open heart as well too, and kind of dig a little bit deeper. Do know that you have a choice here this time around, right? Think about it. You have to have somebody who's passionate. There's a reason why this time around we don't have too many people running. Last time around we had quite a few people running because it was an opening spot. Ideally, if I really wanted to get in, I could have easily run for regional council. I would have stand a better chance. I don't operate that way. Right? I have really good leadership skills, which is important. I have it through my academic pieces. I have over a dozen university degrees, and these things needs to be considered as well too, right? Having only political experience doesn't really give you the real understanding of working with the everyday people, and that's what the difference is. I want you to think about it that way. And remember this one thing that I keep saying, because it is so true. Ronald Reagan once said that politicians are not the solution, they are the problem. Think about it that way. Do check out my website though, narayan.sukram.com. And to Karen, do know I appreciate you. I actually was responding to the question from the beginning based on what I'm hearing in terms of gap. This has nothing to do with you. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen, we'll go to you for your closing statement.
Thanks, James. I continue to appreciate the opportunity to serve you and our community as chair of Waterloo Region. It's a distinct privilege to have your trust. I come into this election with 20 plus years of experience in building service through elected office. I also served as CEO of Habitat for Humanity Waterloo Region for 7 years. I come into this election with skills that I have developed over the years, and they've enabled me to navigate an uncertain time, collaborate with local businesses and area municipalities, as well as to advocate effectively on the region's behalf to other levels of government. It is through effective leadership, authentic partnerships, and forward thinking that the region continues to grow and prosper. And it is through strong leadership that big ideas turn into reality. Municipal government has a direct impact on all of us and offers the opportunity to build and shape our community for the future. Voting is important. I encourage you to make a commitment to your community's future by participating in the municipal election on or before October 24th. I respectfully ask for your support. And again, thank you for inviting me, and thank you to the viewers for joining us for this panel.
Thank you both. On behalf of the Chamber, I'd like to thank everyone for taking part in this forum from their busy schedules to participate. If you're a resident of our region, the municipal election is October 24th, and it is rapidly approaching, so please ensure you're aware of voting location. The Chamber hopes this forum has provided some relevant perspectives on your issues of concern. Thanks to everyone, and have a great day.